What's good, everybody? I'm gonna wait a little bit for some more people to come through. I see my girl Black Mixes in the building, so you already know what it is. I apologize for being away for so long, but it's been a very full month on my end. Let's see. I'm gonna bring some more people in. Let's see who comes in. It's 9:32. I'm gonna give it 3 more minutes to let the room fill up a little bit more.
Hey, Torraine.
What's up, my sister? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Tired as hell, but I'm good.
You tired? What you been over there doing?
Shit, I wish there hasn't been just one over there. I was in Chicago last week. After that, then I was in Florida. Now I'm in Atlanta again.
All right. Okay, moving and shaking, our friend.
Yeah. How you been doing? What's good?
I've been doing well. I've been doing well, just like really busy and stuff. Trying to be more present in life. Busy and traveling, and doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I've been doing good.
That's cool. You on this? You outside?
No,
Something
but
sound like it.
it's not. It sound like they.
Yes, outside, like either driving or
Yeah,
something.
don't look. I'm gonna have to put these headphones off. Every time I get on here, I got this jankiest headphones. Hold on.
It's all good. Take your time while you're doing that. I'll wait for the room to fill in.
All right.
This is kind of like the old days. All right. I see the room is starting to fill up. Um, some of you already probably have a pretty good idea about what we're going to be talking about. A lot of it probably goes without saying, but I'll set the room so we can chop it up while my girl Black Mix is getting a
Okay,
headphone
it should be back.
situation.
I just took them off completely. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah. Let's see. It's 9:33. I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes, about 2 more minutes for it to fill up, and then we'll get started. But yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody here has the general idea of what we're gonna be talking about. It's in the title. Are black men becoming an endangered species? And obviously, this was inspired by the murder of Takeoff from the group Migos. Um, Even though it shouldn't really take a celebrity death to inspire this, but unfortunately, it seems like we don't have these conversations for real until somebody famous dies.
Right, right.
Um, yeah, basically, I just wanted to kind of chop it up with everybody. I wanted to talk about the spectacle of black male death, and I also want to talk about some of the socioeconomic issues that create some of these scenarios that we saw happen over the weekend, and not just with famous black men, but just black men in general. I invited a few people who I'm hoping will come through. A couple of people who are very prominent in hip hop, a couple of hip hop legends that might come through. I'm not going to say them until they post up. And I also want to get some people who work in black male studying to talk about this as well, because I think, unfortunately, like I said earlier, it's 9:35, so we're just going to let it roll. It seems like black men are becoming an endangered species. It seems like a lot of the culture and a lot of the things that feed us are grounded in gangsterism and death. And a lot of that's not our fault. Some of it is cultural, some of it comes through the conditions that we've been given in this society. But a lot of it's feeding through our music and a lot of it's feeding through the way we interact with each other. And I want to talk about some of that. Um, y'all know the drill how I do my spaces. If ever somebody has something to say, put your hand up. I will see you. I'll try to keep a list tonight because I want to really get everybody's opinion on this. And we're just going to open it up. Sister Black, since I haven't heard from you in a hot minute, what are your thoughts on what happened over the weekend and in general?
Man, just heartbreaking. I think the one thing that stood out for me the most is the fact that, you know, Takeoff lost his life, but he was not afforded any type of dignity in death. And, I think that that's the part that bothered me the most because it's like, when a person is taking their last breath, that is one of the most vulnerable positions a person can be in. And for him to have his body, his lifeless body, broadcast the world to see on a loop to profit from in some ways, it really bothered me. I've been blessed enough to see life come into this world, as well as being present countless times as it has left this world. And nobody with a shred of humanity would ever record something like that. Seeing a person's physical body leave this earth in real time is heavy. And it's even heavier for those that love them the most. So I really hope that, we as a community can reclaim, that part of our humanity and realize that of being desensitized, by black death, black male death, it just ain't it. So that's the part that really bothered me, knowing that people that love him, people that have intimate relationships with him, his family, his friends, that have to see that on a loop. So, just heartbreaking all around, just all around.
Well, me and you talk about this a lot, and if you follow me on social media, I talk about this all the time. There is no real humanity afforded to black men, in life or death. And what happened to his body, in my opinion, sort of reminded me of the desecration rituals that happened after lynchings and what happened when a man is murdered in the streets or before the advent of social media and all this technology where black men's body parts were cut apart and broken
Hmm.
up and sold and passed around in southern stores or in people's houses. Um, the one thing I will say is I don't think that particular phenomenon, even though it's revolting, is completely limited to black men. Because if you remember when Princess Diana got killed, there was a large conversation around like paparazzi and the fact that what's decorum and what's decent. Because while she was bleeding out, paparazzi in Paris who were trying to get pictures of her dead body or while she was dying.
Right, right.
And that was a white woman in the top echelon of American world society. I think what happens is we are in this social age and we're in this digital age where everything has to be recorded and everything has to be documented. It has its good points, from a political standpoint. It has its sick points when you talk about media. And we can let's just be honest about it. There's sites that feed on black misery and black depravity and black death. From TMZ to the Shade Room, feeding
Hmm.
on black misery and black death is a very lucrative business model, and it always has been. You know, um, Having the culture and having some of the music reflect some of that is a very lucrative business. And one thing that's
Hmm.
come out of some of the conversations we've been having about Ye and about a lot of the things we're talking about with the culture is the fact that a lot of the stuff that we're our culture is really some of the lowest common denominator of our culture. That doesn't mean that the culture is at fault because that element has always been in the music, it's always been in the culture, but it was never celebrated like it is now.
Right.
Um, and I do think, whether we like to admit it or not, and whether we want to address that or not, I do think music is powerful and music does influence people and culture influences people. It doesn't make any sense to sit here and lie and say it doesn't. Somebody put up something on Twitter I think a couple of hours ago. They said the question was, has a rapper ever influenced you to do anything? And surprisingly, a lot of people answered honestly. Everybody has been influenced by the culture or by music in some
Hmm.
way,
Yep.
positively or negatively. Um, when I was in college, a lot of Afrocentrism was the big thing, and Public Enemy, X Clan, BDP, and
Right.
that definitely influenced me. A lot of that came from my family, but that really reinforced it because I saw that up close. So I think we need to talk about that. Um, and again, if anybody has something to say, I see some people in here who I know and recognize. Put your hand up. I want to throw the questions open to the panel, and I just want to throw it open to the floor. If anybody has anything to say, put your hand up, and I'll let you speak. Go ahead. And don't be shy now. Some of y'all be coming into my spaces and be shy for like the first 10, 15 minutes. I don't go at nobody in here.
Wait, people are being shy now? They never was shy before.
I don't know what's going on, but it's been away for like 3 months and stuff. It's been crazy. So,
Me too. Hold on. Like LaRon wants to speak. Hold on.
all right, bet. LaRon, what's good? You have the floor.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you for the invitation. Like, whenever you start a room, Torrin, like I'm there. It's funny. Like, the title of this room are Black Men Becoming an Endangered Species, and I've been listening to a lot of Ice Cube's America's Most Wanted, and the
Hmm.
urgency that he talked about. Black life in America is one of the reasons why I think he's the greatest of all time. But on that album, he had a song called it's called something to the effect of endangered species with Public Enemy.
Yeah, it was him and Chuck
Yeah,
D.
exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, we like black men in particularly have always been an endangered species. I mean, due to how America has viewed us. I mean, we've always been a threat. And so, fast forward, going back from slavery to Reconstruction to Jim Crow to the war on drugs, which specifically targeted black men. That's why for every 100,000 people you have in prison, 8,000 of them are black men. I mean, we have imprisoned more black men than any race of women around the world. So we are specifically targeted, but now it's to the point where, look, like, there's always been inter-community violence, right? But I just think that today, with the advent of social media, with just guns becoming more readily available, and just to be honest with you, the lack of resources and opportunities. I mean, when we look at like PNB Rock, right? And listen, and I don't want to come off as if I'm victim blaming, but most Def talked about it in the song "God." If you're wearing like two paychecks around your neck, and if people don't have, they're gonna want, right? But also there is a self hate that we have. All this stems from racism, white supremacy. And so the ingenious thing about the system of racism, white supremacy is that it doesn't even need white folks for it to operate. It operates on its own. So to wrap it up, Tori, Miss Black, yeah, we've always been an endangered species. This is why we have the talk. This is why, for us to live beyond 25 is an achievement. My nephew just turned 15 years old today. So I mean, it's like, being, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, to all my beautiful brothers out there, man, like, hold your head, and we've got to find a better way than resorting to violence. I mean, 90% of all conflict can be resolved by a conversation. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Nah, no doubt, brother. Thank you for sharing your insight. And thank Elon for giving me the 100 emoji back because I hated that damn purple heart. Um,
You
you
know,
raised. Go ahead, sister.
oh
Go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Go ahead.
You raised some very good points. And LaRon, you spoke about how we have to have conflict resolution and have these conversations, but we also have to take a look at the fact that a lot of the things that used to keep conflict resolution to a minimum till it got to like the lowest part of violence are kind of gone. A lot of neighborhoods that used to have mentors and a lot of people, whether it was a father or
Right.
whether it was a mother or whether it was an uncle or somebody who could pull young men to the side and be like, okay, let's find a different way to go about this. Even if you had to physically fight, it stayed physical. And they alluded to that in the movie Friday that DJ Pooh posted.
Right.
People don't do that anymore. It's like any kind of conflict resolution automatically goes to 100 where you got to grab something and you
Well,
got to literally physically destroy this individual that you got a beef with. And I
man,
think,
like,
go ahead.
you bring up a really good, like, you brought up two really salient points. Mentorship. When I was growing up, there was a lot of older dudes around, and even though they may have been in the street, they had a sense of integrity, right? So,
Mhm.
they wanted young dudes to stay off the street, to stay off the hood. Let me give you some money to go to school, to go to college. Let me, let me point you to the basketball court. What's happened today is, and I would love your opinion on this. Is like, there's no way that a 22-year-old kid can be an OG. It's just not possible because he has not seen enough. He does not have enough wisdom. So, what is a 22-year-old kid going to give a 16-year-old kid as direction? So, a lot of the old heads are gone. Secondly, and I mean, I'm gonna keep it funky here. There's a sense of, in our community, man, and I don't know if this is identity politics, but just when Black Lives Matter came out with just this anti Black nuclear family stuff, that's, I mean, we got to think about that, man. I mean, the fact is that the black family, or just families period, are not celebrated, Warren. I mean, it's look, I don't care what you say, and this is something that I've argued with people all day every day. It's better to have a two-parent household. There's no way that someone can raise a child successfully uh, as a single parent. You can do it, but it's much easier if someone else has. Not saying that is the fix, but just we're missing the mentorship. We're missing the solid family unit. And I just think about, listen, this is a stat. This is true. Over 80% of all the men that are in prison, race, age, just let's just keep that neutral. What is the one thing that they share? The one commonality. They're raised in a single parent household. And I'm not trying to preach as if I'm some like Herschel Walker, some corny folk like that, but I'm saying, the nuclear family works, two-parent households work. And that's all that I'll say there.
Well, I want to touch on a couple of points you raised. You mentioned the organization Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter isn't really the cause of any of this stuff. Black Lives Matter is basically a symptom of something that's been going on since the 1960s. When we're talking about nuclear families or we're talking about two-parent households, you got to understand that that structure was destroyed pretty much in Lyndon B. Johnson's war on poverty. There was this push, and you can filter this through the Monahan report. You can filter this through some of the social programs that went before that. But even social programs that went before that, like in the Depression and the WPA and the Work or Fight program, all those things were tied to families trying to keep themselves together. Now they weren't perfect, and those plans weren't perfect, but nothing was put together to try to actually physically break up the family. What happened in the 1960s when Johnson signed the War on Initiation legislation was a lot of people who, ironically, were liberal, by the way, went into black households, especially like in Chicago, Detroit, usually mostly northern cities. And a lot of those cities and a lot of those policies were focused on giving aid to the mothers, but not trying to create job opportunities for the fathers of a lot of these families. And that developed over time into a policy where it was like a lot of the focus became on single parent households with mothers as head of household because black men were not earning enough money to be able to support a household. And then that translated into the fact, well, since the mother is the breadwinner, let's focus all of our resources on feeding that family, feeding those children with the mother, and keeping the father out of the house. And if you talk to some older people who are still around, they will tell you there used to be a time when if you had a social worker who was um, going to your house and checking on your house and making recommendations of whether you could get assistance or not, if you had a man in that house or if there was any sign of a man in that house, they would cut your aid. And
Torrent, one,
there was hold on one second. There was a movie that came out. Some of y'all might have seen on late
Claudine.
night TV. Yep, there was a movie
Yeah.
with Diane Cannon and James Earl Jones, where James Earl Jones was a garbage man making pennies. What's her name? Diane Carroll's had what 8, 9 kids in the house, and she literally had to push this man out the damn window and put him in the closet so social services would not see this dude in there. That was some real shit. That went on like that. So what happened was once people got accustomed to the fact that they could get money by not having a man in the house and by having more kids, that destroyed the nuclear family as such as it was in the black community. So now we're dealing with the third, going into the fourth generation of this mentality where people feel like they don't need a father and they don't need a two-parent house. So whether you have a father who's married to the mother or not, and what that does is it has young black boys with no mentorship in the household, first of all. And then you factor into the fact that a lot of the OGs that were in gangs in those times, and some of y'all may not remember, I wasn't there either, I was at the tail end of it, but there used to be a code to street shit. If you were not in street shit, you kept the street shit away from kids and you kept it away from women who were not involved in that shit. Once the OGs started getting banged up in the 80s, in the crack era, you had a lot of these kids out here with a lot of heart, with the willingness to shoot and kill, but no direction. So shit just went all over the place, and we're dealing with that right now. Go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox.
No, like I was just going to mention the movie Claudine. Like that to me is one of the most accurate depictions of Black life. And so you are 100% right. It's like a lot of our mentors, a lot of the, I mean, like the term OG is just so played out, but a lot of the older Black men who were hustlers, they end up, going to prison. They end up getting a just crack rock, or they end up dying. And
Mhm.
so you have a bunch of people that are, you have a bunch of kids that are running around with no guidance. Listen, Kodak Black said it best. I love this line. He said, "I'm not a bad kid. I just didn't have no guidance." So there you go. And you are 100% right regarding the Monahan report. I'm not trying anyone, so I don't want anybody to take away me trying to blame anything. I'm just letting you know this is what it is, and this is all by design. So, rest in peace to the brother Takeoff, man. I mean, it's a symptom. I don't want Black people to believe that we are inherently evil, that we are mannish, that we hit our own. No, we are beautiful, loving people. We are not the most violent people on earth. You all know who are. We just live in a situation that it's very hard to get out, because most people who grow up in the ghetto don't make it out of the ghetto. That's for one. And for two, when you see and hear the music of today, it's all nihilism. Again, like I grew up with Ice Cube, Chuck D, KRS One, Eric B, and Rakim. There was always a balance. Whenever people love the song "Paid in Full," right? Because, like, it's about him getting money, it's about him getting paper, but people miss the second part of the song, when the brother became righteous, when he stopped hustling. And Torrin, that is what is missing today. We got the first part, the Rick Ross, like the 2 Chainz, the future, everybody's balling, everybody's selling keys, but we missed that second part about, what are the consequences of the street game. Riding dirty does it better than probably. Anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak, man.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, just going back to what Laurent was saying, you know, you can't be an OG at 22. You haven't lived enough life. You haven't seen enough. You don't have enough wisdom. Pretty much, we have the unexperienced leading the extremely unexperienced. So it creates an environment where these young men are never able to truly understand the code that you were talking about, Torin. That's why we're seeing things happening that we would have never saw back in the day. There is no code. And just speaking, as a mother, I have a son. He's 9 years old. It's only so much that I can do and teach him. It's only so far that I can bring him. At a certain point, it's up to the father to be able to guide and teach him. And the one thing with my son, the one thing that, we work on a lot is being able to be emotionally intelligent, being able to control your emotions, because a lot of the things that we see, a lot of the violence that we see perpetuated against each other is because of fear and uncontrolled emotions. So we need fathers in the home to be able to teach the young boys this type of thing. And like you were talking about some of the socioeconomic programs, that is still a requirement for a lot to in order to be eligible. That is still very much so a requirement for many programs today. So,
Really? I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah, a lot of that has not changed very much from back in the 90s and the early 2000s. I remember, shoot, it was about like 2005 or 6. And I had a little cousin, a family member of mine that was on some social services, and the same thing that you were talking about, having to hide clothes and shoes and all this other stuff when people was coming by. It was literally still happening in our recent history. So none of that has changed. None of it has changed very much. And what we're seeing right now is the result of all of that.
I'm really surprised you're telling me that because I thought that was something that was sort of ancient history that a lot of that stuff got repealed. But I'm hold on, I'm looking at it quick. So the movie Claudine came out in 1974.
Mhm.
I wouldn't even hear you. And it's like that. There's a scene in the movie. If I can pull it up, I'll try to post it in the chat. I just may have to make a tweet and send it to you. But yeah, there's a scene in that movie where the social worker comes and Diane Carroll basically has to hustle. She has to hustle James out of her bed and stick him in the closet with some shoes so the lady can look around and see that there's no man there, and he gets found. And I'm
Hmm.
and like I said, that was a real thing that went on, but I had no idea that was still happening. That's insane to me.
Yeah, it's probably not, depicted in the movie, but it's definitely something that's still going on. Like, you have young ladies who might go in to apply for SNAP benefits or go in to apply for other things, and one of the questions, that's usually asked is about the fathers. So, it's definitely still something that us on the social services end of things are still dealing with.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Um, I want to get a few more people to come in and speak. Y'all are being way too shy. Um, if you have anything to say, you know the rule. Just put your hand up, and me and Sister Black will get to you so you can have your say. And I want to hear from women as much as men. I think we kind of deep with guys in here, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But I absolutely want to hear what some of you sisters have to say. Let's see. We got a hand up. Who is this? Nokia, I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nokia. All right, sister or brother, I'm not quite sure, but the floor is yours. Let's see what you got to say. Hello?
Yeah, you can go ahead. No, Nakia.
Unmute your mic, sis.
Hello?
Hey,
Hey. Um, well, I'm a guy. I'm currently
Okay.
22 in
all right.
college right now. And I've had several mental health issues. And I was raised mostly by women. So a lot of things y'all are saying, speaking to me very directly. And it's very interesting that y'all are like taking the time to have the conversation about like black men and just the whole society just is like
You there?
I think his phone might have cut out.
Okay. All right. We'll hold a little space for you, brother, if you come back. Um, sound like you were getting ready to cook right there, so I definitely want you to come back through. But let's move on to somebody else. Um, let's see. Don't make me start drafting people.
Don't start drafting them. They gonna warm up in a little bit.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a heavy subject, and I know people, and I know I talk about this sort of stuff a lot, so I know I'm kind of heavy with it. But I just think that it's in light of the tragedy that happened, I think it's just a good time to have this conversation because, like I said at the top of this, there's some things in the culture, not some, and a lot of it's not our fault, but there are some things that I do think that we're starting to perpetuate because we're growing into two and three gender sort of stuff and this nihilistic culture that we're in that I think are perpetuating a lot of these things that we're dealing with. And I definitely want to touch on that and see if we can get to some sort of solutions and get some understanding as to why that is. I think Nokia's coming back. I see he's
Yeah,
connecting.
he's coming back. And while we wait on him, though, I guess because I never took the time to answer the question that was even posed. But I guess I would say that, you know, it's a yes and no because, you know, typically, that and saying something is an endangered species would imply that some sort of protection or preservation methods would be set in place. And, we all know historically that has not happened. But on the other hand, absolutely, black men are becoming an endangered species. And when people think about like the ways in which black men are becoming endangered, they often think about death via violence, however, the threat to our bodies, it starts in the womb upon conception. So it's from all ends, the medical industry, the judicial system, mental health, as well as at the hands of our own at times. So it takes a lot to continue to thrive and sustain under those amounts of insults, and these aren't just physical deaths, that we about. They're also intellectual deaths, and this is when you'll see black boys targeted at school at the youngest of young ages. So for me, it's yes because it's apparent, but also it's no because in order to say something is endangered, it would imply that some type of preservation plan has been set in place, and that's not happening.
That's a very good point. If black men were seals or like some sort of breed of dog, the UN would already have airlifts going in to come pick us up and take us somewhere we can get rehabilitated and brought back to
Exactly.
least the level
We
of least
do.
concern.
We have Miss Marnice, and then after that, Coach T. You can go ahead.
All right, bet. Hello, Marnice, how you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Okay. I kind of came in around about Claudine and single moms. Um, I'm not sure, like I said, I just kind of came in and I'm not sure where that was going, but I'm a solutions oriented type of person. And when we say endangered species, I think we need to kind of shift our language because I don't think black men are becoming an endangered species. They black men are still continue to be um, not valued in our society. Of course, we all know that through all the different forms of oppression and then internalized oppression. Um, but I would like to make sure that we lift up um, accountability, right? And not get into shifting blame, right? Because if we shift blame on single moms because the government made us take them out of the home because of, we need to get the welfare back in the day. And I am a single mom, but I'm also a so I think so. There's two parts. There's level of accountability that we need to have for decisions, right? Um, as to how we get to single parenthood, right? Because I don't. It takes two people to make a child. So single moms do not become single moms on their own, right? However, so
True.
I think that's the part that we continue to not lift up, and we black women we end up taking all the criticism. And I'm not about to shift blame on the black man because, like I said, it's level of accountability on both sides when you're producing kids. Um, so I think endangered species, it comes like Miss Lady, the co-host, I believe she was speaking about starting at grade. Look who's kids, right? Look what's on TV.
Right.
Look what's on TV. Like we have to get back to these black codes, black codes of how collectivism, right? We cannot continue to shift blame into the white man if we continue to put our people, our kids into these different schools. I'm not saying that we all have to go be at home because there are some narratives going around that women should be at home. I don't necessarily believe in that. However, I do feel that we all should continue to be our kids' first teacher, and we should build our own institutions, right? School and military are the main focus, and healthcare, right? Because healthcare disparities in the Black community, healthcare is killing us, right? So those are the main three institutions where we as Black people need to really focus on bringing our own together, right? Versus shifting the blame, because this is how this so-called endangered species happened. We all have been endangered, right? Because we have allowed ourselves to put our hands into this white supremacy culture. It's by default, but at this point we have to start taking power into our own hands so we won't continue to perpetuate these same cycles and get these endangered species. And I know we have rappers getting killed left and right, and I'm not trying to be not insensitive, right? Because we have seen rappers gun violence for a very long time, right? We have seen this. This is not new. It's at the point of when we're going to stop glorifying this, when we're going to start participating in this.
Here's the thing. Let me ask
Uh
you
huh.
this. I got two questions. I got two questions for you. Um, you say that we have to get out of the system and start going back to teaching ourselves and building things for ourselves. How does that look when the people who look like you are also perpetuating some of these narratives and some of these things towards our kids, especially some of these black boys?
That is so.
You have a lot of black you have a lot of black teachers and you have a lot of black people who work in institutions who have disdain for black kids the same way that some white people do, if not worse.
So, and you are right. I totally agree with you because a lot of us have
They're
so-called.
they're on here every they're on here every day.
Right, because we so-called made it. We went out to the suburbs, think we're better. I mean, there's nothing than the coons in the slave house. It's nothing different. that's where the collective mentality has to come in. It starts with one person. It starts one. First, you have to change your own stuff, your own mind, right? Then you have to start with your family, right? Yes, single mom, but I am definitely teaching these two kids about accountability, Black people codes. We are more than what they say about us in the news, right? And then that's when you go to the level of community and collective building, right? A lot of our ancestors have laid the foundation. We just are, and I know we getting hit left and right, right? We're getting hit left and right with every issue. So I'm not gonna say it's easy, but if we start there, I believe, and within our own circles, right? If we start within our own circles, start changing our mind, how we work together versus the individualistic attitude, it will
Mm.
start to work. Now, coons, Black people, those Negroes who think they're better than us, who are telling our kids anything, is at one point where we're gonna have to just start branching out on our own and creating our own. The pandemic showed us that we did not have to take our kids to school, right? We were at home pretty much watching our kids, teaching our kids. Yes, it was hard as heck. It was an adjustment, but we may have to create a new structure. Say, hey, we need,
Unfortunately,
yeah, I
go
know
ahead.
it may not be realistic to some, but it can happen.
No, no, I think I don't see something like that happening
Oh
overnight.
no, definitely
But
not.
as you said, that was the culture we had back in the day before because we didn't have a choice. We couldn't go anywhere else except but sit with each other. And we learned how to create our own neighborhoods and we learned how to have our own infrastructure with stores and
Hmm.
barbershops and lawyers and doctors and all that sort of stuff. What happened was, and you alluded to it, um, was a lot of people, a lot of black people who were comfortable and well off, a lot of the civil rights movement was trying to make yourself comfortable enough or make white people comfortable enough to live next to you. And that's just the cold hard truth. Now there were some things that went on along with that. We're talking about like civil rights and justice and equal protection under the law. But what happened, and Malcolm talked about this, the minute the ink was dry on that civil rights bill, the black people who could afford to got as far away from Negroes as they could and threw their money into hotels and threw their money into restaurants and put themselves in neighborhoods that they would have got shot in like the day before. And I think what has to happen, I think what's going to happen is things are going to get so serious with us as a community that we're going to have to realize that we need each other and we're going to have to start mentoring these kids. And we're going to have to realize that if we're going to survive in the society, we're going to have to become a real community again because we're not a community right now. But
Yeah,
thank you, sis. I want to
exactly.
go ahead, Sister Black. And
And I was
I
just
know you got.
saying, one other thing that was going on during that time you were speaking of, Lauren, is the fact that we held value in each other. We didn't have other groups come into our communities telling us why we don't need one another or why we should be doing better without the other. So we have value in one another. So that's another thing that we're missing as well. Coach T, then Tanai, then Marcel.
Hey, hello everyone. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good, brother. How are
I'm
you?
doing great. I'm doing great. One of the things I can say, I'm a clinician, so I've been dealing with this for a long time. And unfortunately, the black culture has a generational trauma and it's been passed on from generation to generation, and we're traumatized. That's one of the reasons why we're not able to thrive. And we're not endangered, we're hunted.
Mm,
There's a difference. We are hunted every day. When black boys are born in society, they enter certain systems, either the social services system, the child welfare system, the juvenile detention system, or the penal system. And that's by and it's been going on for generations and generations. Do we blame we can't blame the single black moms because they're fathers who should be accountable. But what we need to do is engage our children more by having conversations about and now unfortunately I grew up where you had to have the conversation about how to deal with the police. You had to have conversations about you can't be on the corners because this can happen.
yep.
And you have to teach your children these survival skills on how to navigate. The other thing is a lot of people are suffering from mental health issues, which we know. But it's more environmental mental health than organic mental health. When you're constantly in certain environments where they're promoting, oh, you got to be a thug, oh, you got to do this, you got to hold your own, you got to keep it real, or you got to keep it gangster, and that's is brainwashing our children constantly. Because I coach basketball as well, and the first thing I do when the boys come into the gym, I have to remove all those barriers. There are no gangsters in here. There are no thugs in here. We're all young men. When we go play games, you have to wear a shirt and tie. Just because it's a learned behavior on how to conduct yourself when you go somewhere else. And that's the key. We're not teaching our children. We're talking to them, but we're not teaching them. And there's a difference. When we used to
Hey,
listen to our parents, yeah, go ahead.
no. Go ahead, brother. You was cooking. Go ahead.
When we listen to when our parents used to talk a whole in our head, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. We know how to tune them out. But when you engage someone in a conversation and ask them why they want to participate in this gang life or why they want to participate in this, because like I said, I do therapy every day, and I work in D.C. in some of the worst neighborhoods ever, and the shooting is ridiculous. And a lot of the reason why kids get into this because they're scared. They're scared. They're literally scared. They got to hang with somebody to feel safe, and they tell you all the time, "I don't want to be with them, but if I don't be with them, something's gonna happen to me." And you have to teach you. That's why you have to take your kids sometime out of their environment. You have to put them in things. We don't even take our kids to the libraries anymore.
I was
We
actually
let
talking
everybody.
to somebody about. I was actually talking to somebody about that today. Actually, somebody who's connected to the hip hop industry. He was saying that you can get a gun in the street quicker than you can get a book. But here's the. Let me ask you this: since you work with kids, and I think this is somebody I definitely want to ask you about. How much of that is comes from the fact that the environments are at a detriment, or how much of that is coming from the fact that you have generations of people who don't know any better, who don't know because they're so focused on survival that they don't have time to really think about that.
Well, this is the thing. When I go to a lot of homes, and what I see is sometimes the mom is trying to work two and three jobs.
Hmm.
The fathers are not involved, or she's mad at the father because he went and dated somebody else, and that's a whole different dynamic. But the thing is, when you're trying to survive, your mindset is different. So you're not even thinking about, oh, you thinking about I'm paying the bills, I got food in the house, my kids are good. But we forgot about the engagement part. We forgot about the interaction. We forgot about teaching our children a value system, a moral system. We don't even teach our kids values and morals anymore. It used to be a time where parents would correct their kids if they did something inappropriate. Now they laugh or they video, they put it on TikTok or they put it on Twitter and try to get likes for it. And we have to look at that. And that's a very dangerous thing because a lot of people are so caught up in the social media piece and they're gravitating trying to get attention. And you got to ask yourself, why everybody wants so much attention? Because they're not getting it at home or they didn't get it in their life. That's why if you just look, everyone does anything to get a like. Everyone does anything to get a comment on a post because they want that attention because they're not getting it genuinely. And the same with the children. If children don't get attention, they're going to find it somewhere else. And it's always outside your door waiting. And that's what we have to really look at. What's outside my door? What are my kids exposed to walk out my door? What am I exposing to my children inside my house? And that's where it has to start. What am I exposing my children to the house? Engage the teachers at the school instead of teachers in front of the kids, instead of ready to go fight the teachers at the schools, because I've seen that too. I've seen mothers come up to the schools with their sisters and friends trying to jump a teacher. What message are you teaching your children? There's no conflict resolution there. Or you're so pressed to have a man that you bring anybody in your home. Now, this is where it really gets scary. Children get
I'm.
molested at a large rate that
Mhm.
nobody's talking about.
They say that I pulled some numbers on that actually. I didn't know we were going to go there, but they say like I think the rates between sexual molestation between boys and girls are just about equal, but then maybe even higher for boys because the boys don't report it, they don't tell even they keep that under the wraps even more than girls do.
Well, the thing is, more boys are molested than girls because of opportunity. Because boys get we're more likely to let our boys just go. Go with the coach. Sure, we don't even know anything about the coach, but go with the coach. Go outside and play. Or you can go to this neighbor's house. But when it's our girls, we need to know who's in that house at that neighbor's house. We need to
Hmm.
know who that coach is. But when it's the boys, oh, he's a boy, let him go. But what you fail to realize is you're not even protecting your child. And then on top of that, we desensitize our boys at the age of 3. We don't desensitize our girls. We desensitize our boys around the age of 3. As soon as they start crying, you better suck it up. You better not cry.
Yep.
And you're teaching them that so desensitized, they don't learn empathy. They don't learn how to empathize with people. They don't learn how to deal with their emotions because you told them at 3 don't have emotions. So then when they're at 12 and they want to get a gun, you want to know where all this came from. And that's an ongoing thing. So I heard you talking about the little thing that happened with Takeoff and everything else, but it escalated because ego got in the way. Everything escalated because of ego. And if anybody know what ego is, it's really ego stands for edging God out. And when you have an ego, you lose all humility, and it becomes about you and nothing else. So look at that, and look what happened the other day. All about somebody's ego getting overinflated, and that's why the man is dead because of ego. And a lot of these kids, because of their egos. Oh, I ain't no punk. I ain't going out like that. What does that really mean? I've seen so many young kids buried. I've dealt with so many parents who've lost children. And when you go into that home, it's the worst feeling ever as a clinician to work with these families. But then the mindset is, well, we gotta handle that. Instead of grieve your loss, your loss. They're already talking about handling it. That's where it goes back to what are we teaching our children?
Mm. No, that's heavy. Can you do me a favor? Can you DM me your information? I want to talk to you offline.
Sure.
All right. Where you located, if you don't mind
I'm in
saying?
DC. I'm in DC.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk, brother.
No, not
First
a
of all, man,
problem.
thank you for all that. I really want to have something. I want to yeah, just send me your information. We're gonna talk off of this. All right.
Okay.
I'll respond back. Thank you for that.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you for the floor. I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. I wanted somebody who was with their boots on the ground to have a conversation about this. Sister Black, who we got next? Was it Tanai?
Yeah, Tanai's next, and then after Tanai we have Marcel. Then after Marcel we have Frank, and then Verse.
All right, cool. Tanai, what's good, brother?
What's good, man? Appreciate you getting me to come through tonight. So I'm gonna just share my experience from teaching, and uh, for people that are not familiar with me, I teach chemistry at University of Memphis, and Memphis is a predominantly black city. Um, so obviously, I see a lot of black males around, and it's interesting because that they want to keep me here was because of the influence that I have on the population. Like you don't see a lot of black men teaching chemistry with dreads, right? So they want the representation. What I can tell you from the inside is that the culture is rotten, like just straight up and down. And until we're
Hold on.
honest
When you
about that,
Are you talking about the culture of the city or the culture of academia?
no, the culture of our culture, black people's culture, like the things that we engage in, the things that, especially through the entertainment, um, is rotten. Like, and there's nothing that we can do overnight to fix it. And I say that because I see it firsthand, and all the stuff that people are seeing and hearing from the radio, from the videos, they're acting it out in real life, and I'm seeing it.
But let me ask you something, brother. Is the culture really rotten, or is the rotten parts of the culture being promoted over the other parts of it?
You can say that, like we if you want to say it like that, that's fine. I will agree with that too. I think that we have to take more responsibility for putting ourselves in positions to teach our kids and show our kids a different way. Because so there was a joke that was going around on some of my older coworkers from the lab I was working in, and this is the first time that Memphis, the chemistry department, has had 3 black professors all on the same row. They call us Black Wall Street. And like to me, that's insane because it's like how are you that devoid of talent in these areas
to teach your own people. That's a deficiency that we have to create. Like we got to put other people in these positions that we perceive as, too hard, or, you know, everybody thinks the science is being too hard, or they don't want to study for this, they don't want to study for that. And the pandemic has done a number on these kids. They don't meet deadlines, and this is across the board. This is not just black people. This is just not black kids. People don't know how to do hard work anymore. People don't meet deadlines anymore. Everything feels optional, and there's just no pride in what people are doing now. And it's unfortunate because I had one of my students. He was a comp sci major, and there was one day he missed a test in my class. And so I'm walking back from the calf. I see him outside, and I'm like, yo, like, what you doing? Like, you weren't in class today. Like, what's going on? He was like, oh, I didn't even think you recognized it. I'm like, Denzel, like, how do you think I didn't recognize it? He's like, you know my name? And I'm like, yes. Like, why would I not know your name? Like, that's the attention that the brother before was talking about. It's like a lot of these kids are missing attention from people that look like them, and missing support from people that look like them. And so when they get in these positions, they feel like nobody cares. And so that's another part that we have to remedy. A lot of the things that are wrong with what's going on are things that we have to remedy, and things that we have to take charge on. Mentoring boys. I know Torraine said something about mentoring boys. We got to get involved in that, and we got to take more responsibility for that, because nobody else is going to do it. And the amount of people, or the amount of white people that I've had to write recommendation letters for, or, do tutoring and stuff like that, I just look sometimes, I'm just like, man, I wish these were people that looked like me. I wish that everybody else that came to me and felt comfortable, asking these questions and getting these things from me, I really wish that these were black, because these things are important, and it trickles down to the things that we need in society. People always talk about how, black women have a much higher rate of dying when they go give birth, but that's because you don't have anybody else in the room that looks like you. So everybody else in there has these preconceived notions about pain tolerance and all these other racist things. So you don't have an advocate, but you don't realize that you have to put these people in these positions so that you can have an advocate, and that
Let me
starts
just
with
say,
us.
let me just let the room know if you don't know. There have actually been studies done. I think Johns Hopkins and the Lancet did a study, I think last year. You may know this better than me. That came out that said that a lot of practicing physicians and a lot of interns and a lot of residents in hospitals have the idea that black people have a higher pain tolerance than other people, white
Yeah,
people and other people of color,
yeah,
and
Yep.
that affects, and black makes, you know this, but you know this too, but your field,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
this affects the level of pain medication and the level of tolerance that they give, and the level of medication and care that they give people.
Yep. Yep. And
yeah.
I just want to dispel like one large myth that we have, and that people sometimes outside of the healthcare system may believe. But honestly, y'all, and I'm just keeping it real with y'all, we have a lot of black faces with white mentalities
That is
in
facts.
healthcare.
Yep, yep,
And I'm
yep,
telling
That's
y'all,
absolutely
yep.
sometimes
right.
the room can be full of people who may look like you, but the mentality is not there. And you will get just as subpar treatment as you would get from a person who does not look like you and has really, really bad intentions. So I just want to dispel that, because I have seen some horrible treatment, horrid treatment of our people, at the hands of people who also look like us. I'm working every single day to reduce the black maternal mortality rate. And I can tell y'all without a shadow of a doubt, every person that comes into that room is not all white. But a lot of those mentalities that come into that room are extremely white. So, just to just kind of piggyback on what you were saying tonight, that's the thing. We have to make sure that not only we have people that can identify and look like us physically, but also mentally. That's a
Right.
big, big thing.
No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, and I even see that in academia, because I had one coworker when I first got to Memphis. She wrote like this long thread. I guess there was like a hashtag going on, like Black in the Ivory Tower, and she was talking about how white people need to be more accepting and more inviting of
I
black
know,
people coming in these
I, kn-
spaces.
I know who you're talking about. I actually kind of sort of know who you're talking about, but I'll be quiet. But
Okay.
I'll let you.
Okay. So
Mhm.
it's funny now. Like, so I saw that thread. I was like, all right, whatever, whatever. hall. Took me passing her 3 times for her to even say something. And so I'm like, how you
Mhm.
gonna sit here and ask, white people to do something that you won't even do for another black person? Like, so I feel
Right.
that. Like, you 100%
But
correct about that.
she's used to it. That's her pillow talk.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's
I'll
it.
shut
Exactly.
The
up.
the one of one mentality. I gotta be the one of one.
Right.
And I,
That's
Right.
it.
and
Mhm.
Exactly.
actually, piggybacking on what you said, Black Mixer, what you're saying tonight, if we're talking about black faces and faces with white mentalities, I think it's probably worse in academia from K-12 up through higher learning. There are a lot of black people who are ostensibly black, and they even say all the right things. They have all the pro-black shirts and melanin T-shirts, but they have a serious issue and a true disdain for black boys, and
Oh
that's the
yeah.
truth.
For
And
yes.
if
Yeah.
any of y'all think I'm
Yeah.
lying, wait till I start putting
Yeah.
stuff up on the summer screen. They get on here every damn day saying hateful things about young black boys, and then they
Yeah.
go into the classrooms and they go back into the lecture room.
Yeah,
But
and
go ahead, brother.
these are the same people that are teaching your kids, man. So that's why like you gotta have true advocates in the classroom for your kids to make sure they're being taught correctly. So it's like
Mhm.
that's something that's not gonna be solved overnight, but we do need to put more emphasis on putting people in these positions to where we can have advocates. Cause like everybody always talks about fixing the system from the inside, but it's like, okay, you're not putting people in the inside position. So how are you supposed to like get this to change? And if you don't
Right.
want to fix it inside of the system, you need to create parallel systems that have what you want into them.
Yep.
But the
That's
problem
it.
is like people like it's too much talking, it's not enough work. Like I
Mhm.
see it all the time. Like and even at Memphis, there are still more white kids taking STEM classes than black kids, and the
Yep.
majority of the population is black. That is a problem that we have to fix. Period.
That's
That
it.
ain't on nobody else. That's on us. And until we be honest about that and honest about where we're ushering our kids and where we're telling our kids to go and put their efforts in and emphasizing these things early, then we're never going to get ahead and we're never going to get people in the positions where they can truly advocate for us. And this is all from personal experience. This is not me, sitting here just saying, what I heard on TV. This is me. This is for me being in classrooms and looking at these kids and seeing them every day and seeing what they do, what they interact with, who they talk to, and what they're going against. Like, and a lot of these kids, they're trying to make a way for themselves. Like, I had a
Mhm.
student last semester came for the first test, then stopped showing up after that. So I email him. I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like what you got going on? And so he was like, oh, I just missed this test. Da, 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 da. So I'm like, come to my office, on this day. And so I talked to him, and he got all this stuff going on at the house, and he's working 4 days a week overnights and still trying to go to class and still trying to get an engineering degree. So
Mm.
part of that too is caring about the kids enough to advocate for them and ask what they got going on and seeing if there's a way that you can help them. And it's just like one of the things that I learned that has really helped me out in academia is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And these kids don't know that we care about them. Like these kids do
Mm.
not know that we want to see them succeed and we want to put them in the best position. So again, that's something that's got to come from us. They got to feel that from us. They're like, hey, everything that we do is for your best intention so that you can get this good and so that you can make something of yourself, because that changes. Like that changes the perception of what they can do and what they can be when they have somebody that believes in what they can be and believes in their higher self and believes in the things that they can do. Like all of that comes from us, and like all that comes from the adults, from mentorship, you know, going into these classrooms, doing demos, and like actually showing our faces and saying, okay, I did this, so it's possible for you. And I've had plenty of students that come up to me and they're like, you're the first teacher that actually like cared about what I was doing. I'm like, yeah, because I know what it feels like to be in a position where you're isolated, because academia for a black male, especially in the STEM profession, I don't see black people nowhere. So that's very isolating. And I don't want anybody else to go through that, because when you go through that experience, it's very hard to deprogram yourself from some of the things that you're taught from that part of academia. I had a medical ethics class when I was at UT. I taught the teacher more about black trauma, death, and medical ethics than she even knew. I told her about Henrietta Lacks, Killer King Hospital, J. Marion Sims. And it's like all of this stuff is like we have to have a conscious knowing of that. Things that we have to know ourselves so that we can pass it on to our kids, so that when they get into these spaces, they're not whitewashed and they have a strong self-identity so that they can get the knowledge and still use it for good and still be who they need to be while still learning the things that they need to learn so they can advocate for everybody.
Thank you for that. I really thank you for giving us that view from the inside. Some of the stuff I had known already, but I'm glad that you be able to. Um,
Yeah, thank you tonight. That was good stuff.
Black. Before we go over to Marcel, did you have
Uh,
anything you want to say?
no, no, no. We can go ahead and go to Marcel. I know him and
Okay,
Frank been
thank
waiting for a
you.
minute.
Yeah, so but talk about being triggered. First of all, we can share our empirical experiences. That's fine. But what we're not going to do is take negative empirical experiences and put that on the whole community. If there is a dearth of Black professionals in any field, we obviously need to look at the system in which we are living. I too am a teacher. I too work in my community in which I've grown up, a very impoverished, generationally impoverished community that lack basic resources. I too have seen people make bad decisions. But you know what else I see in these communities? When I see high levels of gun violence, when I see high levels of poverty, when I sometimes see fathers not involved in the lives of their children, which, by the way, are a minority, that is not the majority. And that is something even Centers for Diseases Controls corroborates, that Black fathers are the most involved. So I'm surprised I'm hearing the absentee Black dad stereotype being thrown around. But when I see those things, I can say that people need to be responsible on an individual level. But I also realize that as a teacher, and I have taught elementary, I've taught middle, I've taught high school, I've taught at the collegiate level. And if something goes on in my classroom and something goes wrong with my students, guess who's the first person that the administrators are going to look at? Me. You know why they're going to look at me? Because they're going to say I'm responsible for the conditions in my classroom. I have responsibility. So if I'm responsible for the conditions in my classroom, how do we talk about the conditions of Black men and boys without talking about the officials that we elect and are in elected office who are supposed to be responsible for our conditions? You see, this is what really pisses me off. Talk about it's on us. No, the hell it is not. When we built our Black Wall Streets, they burnt them down. When white America businesses were closing because of the pandemic, oh no, tonight I really want you to stay up. Please stay up. When white America's businesses were closing left and right, this government bailed them out. Okay? The pandemic came, this government made sure that they gave out trillions of dollars in PPP loans. But when Black America businesses were not failing, were thriving, and it was burnt down by white mobs, and I ain't just talking about Tulsa either. I'm talking about over 50 Black prosperous towns, Black prosperous Wall Streets destroyed, either by fire, by water, either by eminent domain where they stole our land, or they put a highway through it, or they put an interstate through it. Tulsa, Oklahoma alone caused the Black American community to lose $60 million. I have known business owners who have come up with hard times and they've lost everything when one business collapsed. We have had hundreds of thousands of businesses destroyed time and time and time again. They just did a video expo here in South Carolina. South Carolina up until 1968. You didn't have to go to school to be a
Yeah, I
lawyer.
heard about that.
You didn't have to pass the bar exam to be a lawyer in South Carolina. But once Black people started going to school to become a lawyer, they instituted the bar test. And then they put in there things that were culturally unfamiliar to Black Americans, like a regatta. They did that to keep us out of opportunities. Meanwhile, at that same time, when they started that in 1968, we were losing 16 to 19 million acres of property. That's trillions of dollars being deprived from our communities. At that same time, they were importing heroin in our communities. At that same time, they were starting mass incarceration. Okay? So when people talk about so what we need to do, shut your fucking mouth. You go tell these officials that are getting paid to better the lives of everyone, and somehow everyone else's lives improve except ours. You tell them what they need to do. We have done more than what any other group has ever done. We've been through more than what any other group has ever survived. We had to overcome hurdles that no other group has to survive. When other groups have a problem, they get policies, they get money. When these illegal immigrants come over here, they're given luxurious accommodations. They're given culturally relevant cuisine and flat screen TVs and sofas. When
Marcel, let me ask you
Ukraine,
this. Let me ask you something really quick though. I I
yes,
I hear everything you're saying, and everything you're saying is
uh-huh,
valid. Can you hear me?
yes.
But let me ask you this though. What can we do?
I'm gonna get to that. I'm about to
But
get to that.
let me ask the question though. What can we do as an individual level, as individuals and in communities, to try to save the lives of these black boys outside of whatever's going on in politics? And I agree that all of this stuff is
No,
interconnected. But what can we do as individuals to try to pull some together for these black boys,
okay,
and
I'm gonna
then
get
build
to
out
that,
and build
but
build-
I
and build
must
that
finish
out?
this point. I must finish this point because no,
Mhm.
I've been hearing a lot of respectability, bootstrapperism, and I'm not gonna, they ain't gonna fly when I'm on the stage. I've been hearing it. When Ukrainians, okay, are going to war with Russians, that don't got nothing to us. This government manages to put out tens and billions of dollars and sends it to them.
We
With
know
white
that, but
Americans,
bro,
no,
we know that. We know this government don't
y'all
care
don't
about
know.
us.
You don't know because people up here talking about what we don't do and what we need to do, but they not talking about what's being done for other communities and what has been done to ours. So no, people don't know. And so may I please finish my bill like everyone else was able to?
Absolutely. I just want you to
Thank
get to
you.
the point, get to it.
Thank
That's
you.
all,
Hey, Coach T and Tanai, they got what 10 minutes
brother.
or something.
Brother, nobody's stopping you from speaking, my man.
Thank
Nobody at
you.
all.
I'm
I
going to
just want
get
you to
to
get
the
to it.
point. But we cannot talk about the conditions of our black men and what we need to do without talking about what's been done to black men and boys. When you go to a doctor, someone said this yesterday and it was brilliant. When you go to a doctor, what's the first thing a doctor asks you? Black mixed with black. I'm sure she knows. They ask you about your medical history. They have you fill out a form and ask about your medical history. They ask about your parents' history. If you have a history of cancer, do you have a history of diabetes? Do you have a history of somehow though, when it comes to us as black Americans, our history doesn't matter. We are supposed to wake up one day and overcome over 500 years of the worst treatment and compare ourselves to other groups who
That's
ain't never
true.
had to go through nothing we've gone through.
That's true.
Okay.
But what I need you
Also,
to do, I need you to, but how, here's the thing. I need you to get to your point though. I hear everything you're saying is absolutely valid. But what I'm saying again, and I'm going to ask you, can you, what can we do as individuals, knowing that history, save these black boys and start building some programs for them? That's all I need from you. Go ahead.
okay, well, I'm gonna do that, but these other people were able just to go on and on and on. But okay, need to do is get involved in politics. And I'm not talking about as voting. I'm talking about as the candidate. And I'm gonna say it again. It's unfair that these other people got to talk on and on and on and on and on, and I got to be cut off. I
No,
can't
nobody's
do
We,
cut.
that.
No,
yeah, no,
nobody's.
No,
Torrin,
no,
let
okay.
myself go ahead and finish your point, Marcel. Nobody's gonna interrupt you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Now, listen, we got to get involved in politics. We have to be the people, not just showing up to vote. We have to be the people running for office on a platform that's going to center our needs, and especially descendants of American slaves. Because when we talk about black boys and men, this is usually those who are descendants of the people that built this nation. When white America was dealing with levels of poverty, Chicago, right? That's what we like to say, Chicago. Do we know in the 1940s, Chicago had a murder rate that is higher than what it was now? All done by Italian gangsters.
Yep,
Okay?
that's true.
400 murders in the 1940s and 50s when Chicago's population was much smaller. St. Louis, Missouri, look it up. What did the government do? The government did the New Deal. They spent over trillions of dollars making jobs, well paying jobs for white Americans, helping white Americans get home. They did the GI Bill, helping white Americans get home, go to college, get education, get car, health care. The Homestead Act gave over $10 trillion into mainly white America and European immigrants. You know when the last Homestead Act happened? People think it was a long time ago. 1861 to 1976. This country
Hmm.
was giving white America land. So when we want to talk about what we can do, we need to run for office so this government can do for us what they owe us, first of all, and what they've done for other communities. Because right now, white America is having an opioid crisis. But when we was having a drug problem that they brought in our communities, they said it was a war on us. Now that white Americans are having a drug problem, they're giving them millions and billions of dollars. So I get a little sick and tired of us with this bootstrap attitude. When other communities have issues, no one says to them, you have a culture problem. Your culture is rotten. Black culture ain't rotten tonight. And if you are a teacher or a professor and you are teaching black kids, you are the problem if you think black culture is rotten. I don't know what type of attitude you have towards black students if you're looking at them and saying they are from a rotten culture. Black culture is the most imitated culture in the world. Tariq Nasheed just did a space. He said, oh, so hip hop is black again. Because remember, Fat Joe was saying hip hop was done by white Latinos. And some Italian guys say hip hop was Italian and Jewish. But now that hip hop is in a negative light, now they want to give it back to black Americans. Imagine that. Our culture is
Mhm.
imitated worldwide. Our culture brings billions and trillions to the other group except ours. Our culture is not the problem. American culture is the problem. The anti black part of American culture. What we need to do is what our ancestors did, those who are of the same lineage as me, descendants of American slaves. And I'm proud to be South Carolinian because this is where they first did it. We need to run for office. That's the first thing we did after slavery ended. We went to look for our families and we ran for office. Joseph Rainey, the first black man elected to U.S. Congress. And of course, one of my icons, Robert Smalls, one
Mhm.
from Georgetown, South Carolina, where my grandmother is from, and Robert Smalls, from my great grandmother is from. They ran for office. And Robert Smalls said to these white in the 1860s and the genocidal black violence, he said, the Negro is here to stay. And it is to your own good that he gets what he is owed. And that is what we have to do. Get what we are owed. What I see happen a lot of times, a lot of people take individual experience, put that all on us. This
No,
woman,
that's true. That's true. That's very true. That does happen.
right? They see, oh, Takeoff or was shot and killed. So that's everyone's that we're all to blame for it. No, if we have to be accountable as a community, I have one question for all those accountability people. When does accountability go beyond us? When does the government become accountable for the things they've done to us? Because, like I said, you don't
Yeah.
go.
I do need you to land your plane though, brother, because I know you've been speaking and doing your thing, but I need you to land it. Go ahead.
All right, Torraine, but like I said, I was hoping I could get some of the time they got. But all right, um,
I gave you lots of time, brother. I just want you to land your plane so we can keep it moving.
not as much as these other guys, but okay. Anyway, when you go to a doctor, they always they don't just assume you woke up and saying, okay, you just became like this. They look at history. We as black Americans have a big problem acting like our history doesn't matter. And yet we're in a country that always wants to honor the worst parts of our history while not wanting to acknowledge and repair the damage from that history. We're living that damage every single day. And yet, in spite of that, the majority of us out here doing our best.
All right.
Okay, yeah, done.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for your passion, for real. I respect that, no doubt.
All right. Thank
I
you,
wish I had more
Marcel.
time. Wish I had more time because I didn't
Well,
have much
brother,
to
we
do
don't we
on.
don't have all night, brother. We'll do you again some other time, though. For real, you know how it is,
But those two guys had way more than.
brother. How about this? I gave you your space. All right, let's keep it moving.
All right, y'all. Thank you, Marcel. We gonna it's getting a little late, y'all. For I don't know for me, probably for everybody else. So we're gonna try to keep responses, I would say, to like what you think, Torin, like 3 minutes tops to
Let's
kind
do
of
three. Let's do
okay,
3 minutes.
we're gonna keep everything at about 3 minutes tops, y'all. Um Next is Frank. After Frank goes, it is gonna be verse stay. After that, it's gonna be verbal. After that, it's no. After that, it's gonna yeah verbal. Then after that, no Zen, and then Dr. Heine. So
Bet.
come on, y'all.
I see Erica in the building. I hope she'll come in and speak. And if she,
Hey,
hopefully,
Erica.
what's up, sis? All right, Frank, go ahead.
All right, hey, how you guys doing? Peace and love to everybody. My main point, I was just talking to somebody about this earlier, and I kind of mentioned it in another space. It's like for me, especially when it comes to trying to save, black boys, being a black man myself and having to grow up in a crazy society. I really think education is extremely important. And I'm not just talking about sending your kid to 12, something to college, whatever, whatever, whatever. I'm talking about the education on what is going on in this country, kind of piggybacking on some of what Marcel said about what we've been having to go through for an extended period of time. Like, yes, there is a certain level of responsibility to us, to try to fix things, but a lot of people don't know what has really happened, outside of some of the the bigger things that have kind of popped up. But there's a lot of things that have gone on, that kind of just get pushed to the side, or we might talk about them in this spaces, but then you still got millions of Black Americans walking no clue. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Whether it's, them poisoning our food, doing tests on us, keeping us from being able to financially be able to prosper. Like some people may know one or the other, but for a lot of us, especially growing up, they didn't teach us any of that in school. Learn that the same school I was going to was taking money that was used to exploit me, and now they're in the school just passing me along so I can go into the system. They don't tell you that as a kid. And I feel like, I know kids should be kids, but we're at the point now, if we're dealing with someone who's conking us and they're attacking the kids when they're vulnerable, we have to start raising our kids to be a bit more mature than some people would like, and show them some of the stuff. Like my mom was real honest with me growing up, so I was able to kind of avoid things and deal with stuff in a different manner. But even still, I had to deal with a lot of things that I wish I had more information on going into school. Like I'm an EMT now. I wish people would have told me that Black people are EMTs. I made good money. I probably wouldn't have wasted money in college had I known about that before. But doesn't nobody go into the schools and say that? Trying to go recently, but because of COVID restrictions and stuff like that, they don't really want me coming in there and talking to the kids. But just stuff like that, seeing that there's other ways that we can go about stuff that isn't just forcefully pushed on us, like some of the bad things that go on in hip hop and just push into us. Oh yeah, you got to rap, play basketball, this, that, or the third. There's so many opportunities for a lot of us just don't know, and that's still a product of what's been going on. So that's kind of my main point there. I just really feel like we got to educate the youth, and not just in algebra and chemistry. We got to talk to them about politicals and things like that. How there's been people, no bullshit, and I hate to say this because it pissed me off when I found out that for all of us sitting in this room right now, right, unless you're like, I don't know, 100 years old, and then it's a whole different situation, kind of. But for all of us in this room right now, our entire lives, there's been people working against us. Every second of every day of our entire lives, there's been a group of people sitting somewhere trying to do some dumb shit to us. And no one tells us that as kids. They don't tell us that when we're in college. You don't find that out until maybe a sophomore, junior year, if you're even hanging around the right crowd. So I just feel like we got to make sure our kids who are capable of able to understand and digest the information get that information, so then they can lead their peers, who they're going to end up the peers they're going to listen to them more anyways. You know how we all are when we're young. We just want to listen to our friends. So if we take those who are capable, like how I was, and the information was poured into me, and I was able to bring it to my friends, so now that we all have good jobs and we're moving forward, I think that's what needs to happen next, and then we can tackle all the other stuff as we go.
Thank you for that, Frank. And to your point, I want to share something that somebody told me like 15 years ago. I used to work in corporate America, and I was close. Well, I wasn't. I won't say I was close, but I had an associate who I worked with who was an investment banker. Black man, really intelligent, really knowledgeable. And we were talking about the system in this country, and he told me something that I never forgot, and it kind of ties into your point. He basically said the system, the American system, is designed for black people to fail in it. And what he meant by that was people who have power in the society, people who know how the society truly works, people who have built relationships with the people who have their hands on the levels of power, their main goal is to keep the general public, including black people and especially black boys, as far away from that knowledge as possible because they need a permanent underclass. That's a horrible thing to think about, but that's very real. If you have things that need to be, if you have menial labor that needs to be done, if you have grunt work that needs to be done, it does not benefit you as somebody who has wealth and power to give people information to pull themselves out of that space where they can do is physical labor or food jobs and do something else. So a lot of the things you see and a lot of the things we see as culture, back to Marcel's point and back to your point, a lot of things that are fed to us as a people are desires fed to us by design to keep us as a permanent underclass and to keep us filling the prisons and to keep us dying and to keep us ignorant and to keep us from not knowing who we truly are as people and what we're capable of. So you're absolutely right, brother. Everything you're saying is true. Black mixed, who we got next? So did you have anything to say? You've been kind of quiet.
I mean, everybody else been cooking. I just been allowing to go because I want everybody else to get out what they have to say. Um, so next, hold on. Let's see. Okay, verse thon. I'm sorry if I
Good.
pronounced that wrong, but you are
That's
next.
okay.
Okay.
That's
Go ahead.
okay. That's a German word, Verstehen. It's
Versa. Okay.
looking at things through a lens of empathy for society.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and
Cool.
so it's just a lot to unpack here. And I'm from
Hold on one
Nashville.
second. Hold on one second.
Okay,
Somebody's got their, is that you, Sister Black? You got your mic up on speaker
No, no,
because I'm
no,
getting
no. That's
feedback.
not me. I was muted. I don't know who that was, but whoever. Yeah, y'all mute yourselves. It wasn't me though.
okay,
Okay, cool.
okay. All right, thank you. So yeah, it's a lot to unpack here. And I kind of feel like the old head because when you all were talking about the New Deal and all that, and I knew that single mothers who were on assistance, they couldn't have a partner, couldn't have a spouse, couldn't be married, and that's been for as long as I've known. And I did know that for a long time, and it still exists. But what I want to do, first of all, just encourage us because I was feeling all of what Marcel said, and even a little bit of what Tanai, what he said. Being in the school system, I worked at an HBCU, and now I work at middle school. And we need to love on our kids. We need to love on them. But one thing we do need to do, what hit home for me from what Marcel said, was we need to get our history. And we know our history. We know we've been slaves. I know I'm a fifth generation Kentuckian who just 5 generations. My grandmother's grandmother was a slave. If you can grasp that part. But what I want us to do, if you've ever heard of, raise your hand if you've heard of what's called the Willie Lynch papers. If you've heard of the Willie Lynch papers, good. If
I
you
have heard. I've definitely heard of it. I know there's some speculation of whether it's true or not, but whether it's true or not, the process is still valid.
the process is at 110% valid. And being in not a licensed practitioner, but studying marriage and family therapy, it is 100% obvious in our people is that the whole the premise behind the Willow Lynch papers, whether it's true or not, is that this overseer was hired by all these plantations across the South to basically help help our ancestors internalize the hatred that they had for us so that we would continuously and generationally use it against ourselves. So that's what I'm hearing, and some of the pain I'm hearing, and some of the words and some of the tone and some of the phrases I've heard. One of the things we can do is we need to start teaching ourselves to stop internalizing what other people feel about us, and then use what we know and how we know how to do things to sort of overcome that. It's not going to happen overnight. It may not even happen in a generation, but we have to do it today because what's happening now is not sustainable. It's just not. That it's just it's not sustainable for social reasons, economic reasons, political reasons. And just to go back and emphasize as I circle back around and try to end up this thing, to definitely run for office, get involved in the community, be a volunteer at the Y, be a big brother or a big sister. Be a big brother or a big sister. That is one of the big things you can do. That is one of the most effective organizations in the country, no matter who runs it. It's one of the most effective organizations in the country by dollars, by activity. It is one of the most effective. Be a big brother or a big sister. Run for office. Love one another. Learn how to not internalize the hatred that other people feel for us because it's killing us. It's not killing them, it's killing us. But that's it. This has been amazing terrain. You always have amazing online activities. I enjoy coming to them. Hope to be in some more. Yes, I do believe our Black men are becoming endangered species. It does not inherently mean that something's happening to stop it. That means people recognize that there's coming to an end. So I want us to try to address that and try to bring ourselves more together. That's it. I've talked to Torraine. I don't know if you remember me, Torraine, about 3 or 4 years ago. We tried to do a little online something before this platform on Twitter was even available. But just check
That's
those things out. Become a big brother or a big sister. Run for office. Love yourself. turn around the internalization of what the hatred that other people feel for us.
I
That's all my
th-
thing.
thank you. Send me a. I really don't. It's not ringing a bell, but DM me with the information, and it'll come back to me. Thank you.
Sure, sure will. Thank you. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful evening. If I don't say goodbye to you, be blessed and get rest.
Thank you, sis.
Thank you so much, sis.
That's
Thank
that
you.
that
Thank
that's
you.
that's that old school porch wisdom. Like get out the street wisdom. I know what that is.
That's what that is. But you know, the thing about it is that one thing that I can say that everybody that has spoke tonight, the one thing that everybody is in agreement on is the fact that mentors, no matter if it's coming from in the home or outside the home, is needed. I think sometimes we get so caught up on the things that we disagree about that we don't take into account the big things that we agree on. And that's the one thing that everybody that has spoke on the panel tonight can agree on. We need to start there. That's what
Can
we
I?
need to start. Yeah,
Can
go
I?
ahead.
I want to say something.
Go
Um,
ahead.
I really appreciate what Verstahoon said about mentors and about big brothers and big sisters. But one thing that we have to all really acknowledge, and it's the truth, is that there are some brothers out there who are not going to go to those platforms and are not going to show up at some gym to talk to these people. We have to have men who live in those communities, whether they're out there hustling or whether they're out there doing whatever, even if they're coming back home from the system, to talk to some of these young men and give them some other resolution, some conflict resolution. I came up in the neighborhood. I grew up in Duval. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval. And when I was a kid in Duval, Jacksonville had the number three highest murder rate among black men in the country. Jacksonville has like 1 million people that live in it. Jacksonville had a murder rate in the mid '90s that was higher than Oakland and New York put together. There was a lot of men who were going in and out of the system, but there were also a lot of men who were either hustling on the street or were just older men just trying to get through their day to day. But there was a presence of men in that community that I grew up in. I grew up near Moncrief, the one that Cat Williams talked about when he did Great America. There's places where they said the cars where the cabs don't go. I grew up in that, and they were always pulling me to the side and pulling kids to the side and telling us not to fuck around with that stuff that they was doing. I'm just gonna use the language they were saying. One of my uncles was in it the most of my adult life, but he was a very glamorous dude because he was doing his thing. He always had girls around him. He always had, he looked flashy, but he was in and out of his. He was always bartering that with his freedom. And I'll never forget this. When I was like 16 years old, I think I said I want to ride. I want to ride like you. He pulled me. He snatched me up and told me if I ever hear you say that again, I'm gonna beat your ass. And I'm saying that to say that sometimes kids who are around that shit need that. And there was a code among people who were in that hustling life where it was like, if I'm in this world, I'm not going to bring no kids who I see potentially into this world, and I'm gonna do everything I can to keep you out of this. I think when crack hit the black community and a lot of these men started dying and a lot of these men started going into the system for like 10, 12, 15 years, that left a vacuum in a lot of black communities and black hoods where there was nobody to really mentor these kids. Even if you look on the West Coast, there was a code to a lot of the gang shit that goes on in the West Coast. But when a lot of the OGs, the real OGs, started getting banged up and started getting locked up and started getting taken out, you had a lot of young cats out here with a lot of heart and a lot of guns and a lot of violence in there, but no direction. And that's why you see a lot of that shit that's going on the West Coast is going on the way it is. That's why a lot of stuff in New York is going on the way it is. So I'm saying that there are kids out there that those programs are not going to reach. And we have to figure out some kind of way to put mentorship back in those communities with people who they will listen to, who they either fear or who respect them and don't want to see them go down that road. And I'll get off my own soapbox and keep it moving. Who we got next?
Let's see who we got next. We got verbal next, and then after that, go ahead, Nozen, and then Dr. Hines, and then after that we got Tim and them.
Jim. All right, who we got?
Hey, what's going on, Torrin and Sister Black? How you doing?
Good.
Can
How you
can
Doing
doing?
can,
well.
can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah, we can hear
good.
you.
You
Yeah,
on the
Torrin,
road?
yeah, a little bit. I just got off work, so I want to jump in. But I saw the title of your work of the program, and the first thing I thought to myself was endangered species, and I thought of the song that Chuck D and Ice Cube did in 19, right?
Yep.
That
I
was
put
the
it up on
first
the
thing I thought of.
I put it
Yeah,
up on the
yeah.
jumbotron that people want to hear it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the first things I thought of, and By the way, that email I sent you, that was for. I want to look. I want to link up with Marcus because this relates to what I was going to talk about. Is you know, I got to thinking about all the stuff that was going on in 2020, and then how some of that righteous anger, particularly of some of the celebrities and the brothers who were playing sports, was sort of sheep herded into getting Kamala in office and getting Joe Biden in office. And I get to think of some of the names. I'm just going to throw a few out there: Amir Locke, Isaiah Williams, Derek Applewhite, Sincere Crooms down in Florida. Um, these are some names. Casey Goodson. Have you heard these names spoken in the media at all? These are brothers that died after the election and were shot, and cops are killing people at a higher rate than they ever have. In addition
Hey,
to some of the
brother,
things that are
is there
going
any
on.
way you
Go
can?
ahead.
Is there any way you can drop your echo or something like that? Because it's like echoing real crazy.
Okay. How about this? Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a whole lot better. Yeah.
Okay. Is that better? Okay. So
Well, I take
those.
that back.
Oh,
I
hold
take
on, hold on.
I take that back.
Oh.
You
It
sound like
came
Lincoln.
back. Hold on,
You sound like
hold
Lincoln
on.
Park, brother. You gonna start
Oh
singing
boy.
in. You gonna start
Whatever
singing
you
in the
did the
end and
first
shit.
time, whatever you did the
uh,
first time, do that again.
It
But
starts
is it
with one.
right here? Is this fine?
right there, there you go,
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
it.
There you go.
This good? Okay. But I got to think of some of those names, and I still follow cop killings around the country, and none of those brothers' names are being spoken. And as Torrin knows, one of the things I've been trying to work on is trying to use some of these brothers and to create, because, to get back to what Marcel was talking about, um, the George Floyd Act is nice, but the only way you're going to get action in on police is on the local level with police union contracts, and that's by saying how much the police union gave you, $500. Okay, we're going to give you $5,000. You either change that contract to put some accountability in there, or we're going to run somebody against you. But none of that is happening, and you flip it around and see what's going on today. Like take for example, just today, all the stuff that's been going on with Kyrie Irving. I'm not going to relegate the things he said or what he didn't say, but immediately within a week, he's pledging $500,000 to the Anti-Defamation League and other anti-hate groups. I ain't got a problem with that. However, where has been the pressure for the past 2 years to keep on these local police departments and these local politicians? Once these brothers got sheep herded into getting other folks individual in office. And that goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with Uncle Luke, right? And but the one thing I don't want to do is have us lose hope. And what Torrin was saying about some of the brothers on the West Coast, he stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's where I'm from Los Angeles, right? So, the murder rate when I left Los Angeles in 1989 was 21 per 100,000. As of 2019, it had gone down to 5. Now it's spiked in recent years, but to his point, that's what three strikes was about: getting the OGs off the street. Because if you do 5 or 6 years, that's different than doing 30, and that creates a destabilizing effect. Because brothers coming out the game can be out there to school these kids on game and being mentors, but there is hope out there. I try to rap with young brothers and stay in their ear about being positive and not making errors and not losing direction and being on their mental health. And there's a couple of brothers I chop it up with on a regular basis, and you'll never know. Some of y'all that are in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. There's always someone eager, whether they're in the streets or not, eager to get some game from you about maybe missteps you've made, or the good things that you've done, or the positive, or the negative, and we'll listen. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you for that, brother. Appreciate that. And if Lincoln Park needs another singer, man, you can always use that mic. It's all.
All right. Y'all remember y'all order? Probably not, huh? Okay.
Let me.
No Zen, and then Dr. Hines and Tim and Denham. Go ahead, y'all.
All right, cool.
2 to 3
Hey, good
minutes. Okay.
evening.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Um, Torraine, when Marcel was speaking, I know he was quite passionate, but he was asking about the accountability, and I'm gonna come in as one of the accountability guys. Not that I disagree with anything Marcel said. What he said was right, but the big change that we're looking for, yeah, we need to keep fighting for it. but I think we can also start having a change on an individual level, on a household level, on a community level. I love the idea of the big brothers, sisters. Not maybe not specific organization, but just in general. Positive mentorship, positive examples. Um, the idea of us taking part in the election, in the electoral process, as in being candidates, I do agree. Um, is that how realistic is that, considering the finance that goes into it? Uh, that might be difficult for most, but I think one of the things that we can do, and something simple, I think folks can watch the news, stay informed about what's going on. Not just watching the news when it's time to, like, when the stimulus, waiting on the stimulus to come out, but really staying informed.
Hey, brother,
I think.
can I say something real quick? I don't mean to cut you real quick, and I'm gonna let you speak. Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Be very, and I'm speaking as somebody who worked in mainstream media. Be very, 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 very careful what news sources you pick from if you're going to inform yourself. And I'm just saying that just to let the room know. I absolutely, it is very important to keep yourself informed. But I'm here to let you here and now. The majority of mainstream news in America is bullshit. You got to really be discerning and have some discernment about what information you pick. That's all I wanted to say, brother. Keep going.
Okay, well, I'm going to respond to that right now. I never used the word mainstream. I just said watch the news. Here's the thing. I watch several different news sources. I'll even say I even watch Fox News sometime, because I want to know what people that don't think like me, what they're thinking.
Hmm.
So even I agree with you about the mainstream news source. There's lots of bias, but guess what? Challenge yourself. Look at different sources. If something doesn't feel right, even if something does feel right, say, hey, you know what? I wonder what these other folks are saying. And then say, wait, well, hold on. There's some contradictions here. Let me try another source. Even from, and I'm, even if you want to look at overseas, I even encourage
Hmm.
folks to look at news sources from overseas to see what their perspective is of what's going on over here. Um,
Absolutely.
so but even one of the things that we have to look at is really getting out of our comfort zone, challenging the status quo, accepting that, what's been going on is not working. Because I'll even say this: when we look at the election system, 90%. I think that 90% of blacks voting for Democrats, I think that's a dangerous number, because I guarantee you that if if you decided to say, yo, I'm buying everyone a DoorDash tonight, tell me what y'all want, I guarantee you none of us can agree on the same thing. But for some reason 90% of us are voting for the same political party. That I think that goes to being not informed of what's going on. I'm not saying to vote Republican. I think the two-party system is also dangerous, because how can there be more genders on a form nowadays than political parties? Big political parties. I think that's dangerous. And But I'm gonna give you, and then also my last point is, I'm gonna give you a little background about myself. Is that my pops is Jamaican, born and raised. My mom's African American, but I grew up in a my dad raised me as a single pops, so I grew up in a Jamaican household. But when I stepped out, in Northern California, but when I stepped out the house, um, I was like pretty much exposed to everything Black American because of where I live. And one of the things that I think that we really need to, it would be great if we can really start holding ourselves accountable with. We have to look really, our history did not start with slavery. We're the only segment of people that is so disconnected from where we're from. And really going back to our roots. I think once we have deeper appreciation for our roots, we'll be able to have deeper appreciation of our work, And then even one of the best things that we can do now is really invest in our community. As in, we want to talk about mainstream. Let's take our money from out of the mainstream banks and put put our finance into black owned banks. I love what Deion Sanders is doing with Jackson State and really uplifting HBCUs. You know, he can't be the only one. I think money is power. I think our money is more powerful than direct political influence in being in office, because we have seen that it's money that runs this country, not who's in office.
Exactly.
I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on this platform. I enjoyed the dialogue, and if anyone want to throw me a follow, I'll do the same, and I look forward to it, keep engaging in this platform.
All right, my brother. Thank you for your input.
All
All right,
right.
sis.
Thank you, brother. Go ahead, Dr. Hines, and then Tim and Denim. And listen, I see y'all that's requested. Just give me some time. As soon as these speakers finish, I'm going to pull y'all up, okay? All right, you can go ahead, Dr. Hines.
Hey, I'm not gonna take too long. I'm just gonna offer my 2 cents because I've heard I think Marcel, I think I heard him speak in regards to running for office. If I got that wrong, I do apologize because I came in a bit late. But
No, you had
um
it right.
okay, and I want to piggyback off that point. I mean, you may or may not want to run for office, but I think we have to look at the biggest influence that we have in the entire culture, and that is music. Because he did raise a very good point when he said that we are very influential
Hmm.
across the world, and he mentioned how Fat Joe comes in, and then the attention is on him, and then when he goes bad, the attention is back to black people, and he could not be any more right than that, because that's actually true. Even though I mean I used to be a DJ, so I used to pretty much play his music as well as other black people's music, but from what I'm seeing is turning to something where we appreciate others more than we appreciate our own artists. And I make that point to say that we don't appreciate our own artists because it's actually our own artist that dies a lot more because of that side of music, which is hip hop, or more specifically rap. And we, I don't think we actually take time to address it. And I make that point um, to go on to my main point, which is the world doesn't like us already, and we can see that in the example. And some people may disagree with it, some people may not. I'm not trying to address him specifically, but I'm trying to make the comparative point in the sense of, if you look at what's happening with Kanye West, it's very nuanced, everything that's happening, but you can see the uniformity that
Hmm.
they have expressed to um, make their voices be known, that he cannot mess with their community like that, and that's fair. I actually think that if someone comes at your community like that, even if you agree with it or not, you should have that uniformity to say, hey, back off. This is where you stop. I say that because we had an example of that, and the example we had was Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson
Yeah.
pretty much got away with it. And in my honest opinion, even though I understood where Liam Neeson came from, I didn't weigh in. I didn't weigh in when Kanye made his slavery was a choice. I didn't weigh in when he's made this Jewish code. I don't talk about these things, but I see it from a point of view that of I see it from a point of view of these people are just making their comments. So I'm not going to is their opinion. But what has changed, or what I've realized from the whole Kanye debacle, is out of Slavery Was a Choice and Liam Neeson, no one was outraged. There was no uniformity. It was basically bickering, not bickering, but sharing their own views. They talked about it. People were pissed. Some people weren't. This and that. But on this one, it's like the entire planet. Unifam was like, you know what, you can't actually say that because they are this and that. If we had that, and this is where my point is, we don't have that because I personally believe we don't actually know what it is to be hurt. I think we have gone to a point in which we don't have a unified thought anymore. I think we have gone to the point where we are defining what racism is, but from someone else's lens. And because we're defining it from someone else's lens and not our own, we cannot thinking that they have, because what they have successfully, and I can't say who they are because I don't want to get cancelled like he has, but what they have is they all know collectively that this is wrong. They all know, they all define what anti the S word is. They all define all of those things together. And
No,
they all
I get your point, brother, and I think what you're saying, and you correct me if I'm wrong. And unironically, this is kind of what Kanye said in that interview on Drink Champs. Every other ethnic group closes ranks when that particular ethnic group feels attacked.
yeah,
Everybody else guards their culture. It seems like Black Americans, and I'm just using Black Americans. I don't know where you are because I can't speak for anywhere else. But if we're talking about Black popular culture or just Black culture in general, we are the only people that are so free with our culture and so welcoming that we don't even control the culture that we create. And I think what happens with that is when you give away so much of yourself, you end up having to rent yourself back from other people who don't care about your culture as much as you do. And if we're talking about music, as you said, and if we just want to keep it on that, are we really talking about a situation where the music itself, and I asked this at the top of the show, are we talking about the music being toxic, or have the most toxic elements of the music been pushed to the forefront and everything else fall to the wayside? Because if you
okay.
DJ, if you were a DJ and you know music, you know if you go and look back in the history of hip hop and not even the distant history up until about 93, 94, there were about 8 or 9 different traits and different strains of hip hop that were popular at that time.
100%.
You
I
had
do know.
you had gangster rap. You had Ice T and NWA and the Ghetto Boys under gangster rap. You had sex music under the Two Live Crew. You had comedy under like Biz Markie and Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, Will Smith and all that. You had all these different currents going around in hip hop, and all of them were valid. I remember one of the first big shows I saw as a kid. It was, and I'm gonna date myself with this. Thank God I'm not recording it. Was Run D? Was it Run? No, it was Ice, the Two Live Crew, NWA, Biz Markie, Slick Rick, and I can't think of who else it was, but and Public Enemy was the headliner. Now you had political rap, sex rap, gangster rap, dance music, pop music, and culture all on one stage, and that was all hip hop. What happened was when that culture got taken away from us, when they started buying up a lot of these small independent labels like Luke Skywalker
Yep.
in Miami and Def Jam and Profile and all that stuff and Ruthless, that music got commodified and culturized to the point and basically capitalized on to the point where the lowest common denominator got pushed to the forefront because it was easier to sell. And all those elements like Public Enemy and Black Power and Black culture got thrown away. And so now all you got is pussy and sex and guns. That's where we're
Well,
at right now.
sir, why did you have to spoil the movie for me like that, man? I was getting to that. I was just laying the foundation, but I mean, well, spoilers there, but to go back to your point, because I'm coming from a background where, yeah, where we were pretty unified, and
Hmm.
we couldn't mess with it with our family. So I'm coming from that to kind of share a perspective, and the reason why I brought in music is because it's the closest thing outside of movies, because I don't think movies is as effective as music.
It's
but
not as visceral. It doesn't speak straight to the soul like music that's powerful.
it,
Yeah, images are
it is
powerful. But go ahead.
both mediums are powerful, but I feel music is a lot has a lot more influence because I don't picture somebody perpetuating what they've seen in a on a movie screen
That's not
compared to
necessarily.
what they've
I
heard.
I do want to push back on that a little bit, brother, because
Okay.
I don't think it's as powerful as it used to be. But you got to remember, there was a movie that came out in 1915 called Birth of a Nation that basically revitalized the Ku Klux
Okay.
Klan in
Okay.
America.
Fair point. But
So
no,
it,
I've heard of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
images
Yeah.
are very powerful.
I thought of that. But the main point I was trying to make, the main point I was trying to make in terms of the music is you are absolutely correct. Because the one thing that I do know coming from that background, the DJ background, and is one thing was for certain. I've seen, as you have laid out, a shift from having so many subgenres of hip hop to now having just one genre, and the subgenres, like your Joey Badass, your J Electronica, your who else can I mention?
Kendrick.
Killer Mike, Kendrick, J Cole, all of those guys are taking a back seat with only just Kendrick and J Cole pretty much carrying it. If we're being a buck, but
Mhm.
the main point I wanted to raise from that is we have seen deaths rise from the first, well, not the first, but the most publicized one is Tupac and Biggie, and then you have Big L, and we know how they died,
Mhm.
gang, all gang related. And then, in my opinion, I think when we should have banded together and started making an actual say, look, listen, this is where we need to come together and get the music back to this type and try and eradicate this culture like
No,
how
I get
Killer
what you're
Mike is
saying.
doing now.
I
Yes.
I I want to yeah, I want to real quick, but I want
Okay.
to say something. No, no, no,
Oh,
no, no. I'm not cutting you off. I just want to say this.
sorry.
The things you're saying actually did happen. I don't really talk about this a lot, but I was around the music industry and around that time. I was doing PR for a couple of labels. Um, there was a thing that happened after Tupac's death, and if you go back and look at the timeline, you can see it. Right after Tupac died, and then right after Biggie died, immediately after him, that was when you saw the rise of neo soul. That's when Erica Badu and Music Soul Child and Maxwell and a lot of these artists started kind of blowing up a little bit because there was sort of like this exhaustion in black culture when it came to black music because there was so much death, not to the point that it is now, but Biggie and Tupac were so integral to the culture and them getting taken out like that really shocked the hell out of a lot of entertainers and a lot of people. So what happened was people wanted to rest from that. So that's when you saw like things started moving back towards a sort of organic sort of form of music. And if you look at the release dates on like a lot of those records, Baduism came out around like 94, 95 or so. Music Soul Child, there was like that a 2 to 3 year window where there was a little bit more of a variety and a little bit more of a mellowing out of black music. And before it could really get underway, all the record labels started like going back into pulling out hood shit and pulling out like gangster rap and making it hyper commodified to the point where it almost became like a precursor to Grand Theft Auto. And if you talk to like NDIRE and some of the people who are around it, they'll tell you that they were saying that a lot of interest from their labels that made could have made them hot started dropping off because they were signing all these other acts and everything, or just going to the lowest common denominator. So I get what you're saying, brother, and you're absolutely right. And you made a very good point. I do want you to land your plane because we do have to move on, though, brother.
Okay. Okay. I'll quickly land. So my point is more of we need to bring back the activism into the music again because that's what really helped. And this is it's kind of ironic that this example, but you understand what I mean. For
Hmm.
example, you see how gangster rap blew up because of NW. I
Hmm.
feel like for example, when Jam Master Jay died, and he died from from gang war and sorry, from a drug deal gone wrong. And then when Nipsey also died, I think we should have brought this back into the culture. And then started looking at reforming the music. So what I'm saying is, I think because of the rate that our rappers are dying, um, and all these things is actually a concern that we need to try and take the ownership back and try and change and move away from gangster rap. That was mainly the point.
Hmm.
And we also have to start taking, especially when it comes to anti-black, it should be no justification at all.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that.
It should be no justification at all. And I'm using the Liam Neeson example. If any point can land out of everything I'm saying, make it be that example, because that should have been the one point that we as a group, as a collective, should have been being like, you know what, I don't care who he is, I don't care re- if he's remembering. This is actually a genuine fear for black people because
All
of
right.
an example like Emmett Till, for example. Like
Okay.
imagine, yeah,
Go ahead and land,
something
brother.
like that.
Go ahead. Go ahead and hit
That's
the road.
basically it. That's
All
basically
right.
it. Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Who we got?
Go ahead, Tim, and then Denim.
Tim, what's good, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing, Torraine, my brother?
My
Is my
brother.
volume okay?
You just fine, brother. I know you got that dope studio. Everything you got the EQ levels all lined up.
Man, I'm using the phone, but I want to first of all say, brother, first of all, I love this space. This is amazing. You guys are doing an excellent job. And Black Miss with Black, thank you so much for your work as well. All the speakers who have spoken, I've been inspired by you. You got it. I've been inspired by everyone who spoke tonight. I mean, the passion, even the disagreements were for passion for Black people. That was love.
Hmm.
That was Marcel speaking up for Black people. The teacher speaking. He loved those kids. So that's amazing. Need. I'll just say this to answer the question. First of all, yes, Black men are in species. Absolutely. I mean, and that's not just rhetorical. That is factual. According to the CDC, we have the number one killer of Black children age to, what is it, 19? It's
Hmm.
homicide.
Yep.
For white kids, it's accidents. So they're falling and we're being shot to death. That's really what's going on. Have the issue as you get a little bit older, then it becomes homicide and suicide. We're talking about Black males, Black men, young Black men. So definitely we are an endangered species. Now, what can we do about it? Well, first of all, what Marcel was saying about the correcting the record, I understand his point. He wants people to understand we didn't just get here. This is not an accident. The system, we talk about it all the time, Turin. The system is designed this way. This is not luck that we are here at this place and that we're dealing with these issues. It is not for lack of trying, it's not for lack of participation in our families. It's because the design of this system is to keep us bottom casts. So, what can we do about it? I got an idea. We can do what we're doing tonight. You guys, there are a lot of people listening, and all those people that are listening need to tell 2 people or tell 5 people and spread the word because I believe, just like those white kids, and now unfortunately some Black kids can get radicalized online. Radicalized is not a bad word. Radicalized just means that you've been influenced to look at politics or social issues in a radical way. That's all it is to be inspired. But we tend to see it when it's those shooters that go do something negative. But we can radicalize our young people online. Once upon a time, you would have to go. When I was coming up, you would have to go to a boys and girls club. You might have to have a mentor come to your school and speak like the coach talked about. Some of the other people who spoke talked about being able to go out and talk to young people. But you know what? This is the vehicle for that right here in your hand. You can reach more people with this phone than you could reach going, in person, that you could ever hope to reach on a speakers conference, that you could reach on the speaker circuit right here online. And when we have people like Torraine and many others who are putting out dope content that captures the imagination, the minds of young people, folks, there goes your influence. There goes your group efforts. So we need to support those. The people that speak well. Like when I go to TikTok, I'm amazed by the number of sisters and brothers who I never heard of. I didn't know all these brothers and sisters was putting it down. We got clinicians. We got some professors, and I know, Tony, you talk often about the people in
Hmm.
academia who are, not necessarily on the right track, but there are some that are on the right track. And those people out there, we need to reach out to them. We need to platform them. We need to support them. This is our vehicle. They didn't plan on us using it. Of course, they want us to use this internet to shake our ass, to promote negativity, but we ain't got to do what they tell us to do. We can take this and use this for positivity. We can use it to spread the word. I've been doing my show for 10 years. The number of young people that have reached out to me and said, Mr. Black, I love what you were saying. I don't have anyone to tell me these things. Please talk about this issue again. We need to support independent voices. You know those people that are putting it down. Help them, support them. Torraine, he's trying to build out a studio. I retreated Torraine because I believe in what he's doing. We got to put away any competitive natures, put away any selfishness. What's for you is for you, and can't nobody take it.
That's real.
Boost each other because we are it. People that kid on this call, get with somebody. Whether if Tariq your flavor of the month, is that who you want to listen to? Support Tariq. Is it
Hmm.
is it the black media? Is it Phil from Advise Show, formerly Advise Show? Is that your guy? Go with the brother Phil. Whoever it is, get with them and support them. Everyone has the ability to promote. Promotion is free, and we need to do more of that because believe me, those voices we talk about. You guys spend a lot of time talking about hip hop. Hip hop ain't nothing but talking over a beat. Everybody wanted to be a rapper when I was coming up, but they weren't dying like this. Our young people were dying like this. So we need to put a different beat underneath our vocals. We need to put a different rhyme, another spin. We need to have some different flavor. And that flavor, look, we don't just, also, let me add this, my bad, let me add this. Not just talking to kids, y'all, we need to talk to adults. Man, some of these adults, you guys, I don't know who y'all be talking to. Some of these adults know this shit. Some of these adults, you acting like these families, these mothers and fathers are choosing not to do the right thing. They don't know how to do the right thing. You gotta
Hmm.
meet people where they are. You can't assume that they know this shit and that they're choosing negative. These people love their kids, they don't know how. So maybe your show, some of us can give things to younger people, but don't forget the parents, man. The parents need our tutelage. I, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm an older dude at this point, man. It just happens. If you're fortunate, if you're lucky, you get some gray, and I can use that to motivate, inspire, and look, it gives me some credibility in certain spaces. We need to use that. Put your face on camera. Get out here, talk to these people, encourage them, add your wisdom. Don't worry about if you can speak the King's English perfectly. Fuck that. There's somebody who wants to hear it the way you got to say it. The way you say it is the way someone needs to hear it. So in closing, I just say, if they can radicalize these shooters, let's radicalize some inspiration in these young people. Let's motivate some parents who got too much on their goddamn plate. Let's remember, we're 13% of the population. We own less than 2% of the wealth. That ain't accident. We need to fix that by working together. Thank you for the time, brother.
Woo, brother
That's
Tim,
look,
man.
look.
That was a word, brother. That was a word. Pass that
That
plate
was a
around so I can drop
word.
something in it.
Thank you
That
for
was
the
a
opportunity.
word. That's right. Thank you, Tim. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sister.
Let me tell
Man,
you
wait a
something.
minute.
It's only
From what
so much that our boots can do. Our voices can go much further. Boots can go. I've been doing a lot of work on the ground, but I realize, and I come back to this app every single time because I realize that my voice can go places that my boots cannot. Thank you for saying the thing that you just said, Tim.
Sister Black, you know what I done told you? You know what I talked to you about. And you know what I'm trying to get you to do if
Yeah.
you come along.
Oh my goodness. Look, I told you, as soon as stuff cool down, I got you. I promise you that.
Yeah, you already know what we talked about. I'm coming for you directly when everything lines up. But anyway,
You have to put me on blast. That's all right, brother. I still love you. It's cool.
it's all good. It's all good. Let's see. Jim had
Go
it over.
ahead,
By the
Denim.
way,
And look,
by the way,
after Denim talks, y'all, I know they have like 8 people waiting in queue. I'm gonna bring y'all up. As I bring y'all up, I'm gonna give you guys take about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and say what y'all have to say. Go ahead,
okay.
Tor.
Who do we got? Denim or who's next?
Denim is next, and then we got like 8, 9 people in queue. So
All right. If you need to split them up, let me know. I'll take some of them too. But go
yeah,
ahead,
I
Denim.
got
You've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Torraine. I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. And then Miss Black Mixes Black, I appreciate you. But yeah, no, I think that this is it's a great space. I'm appreciative of these types of conversations. Um, just to give a quick 2-second background, I am in the entertainment industry. So I'm on a television series right now, which happens to be the number one TV series in the country. And a lot of the things that you guys are speaking about are just so prevalent that you see because we grew up in a lot of these spaces. And one of the things, Train, that you said before about the gentleman that told you that the system of America was designed for us to fail. And so that was so powerful when you said that because it reminded me of something that I was told when I was in my teenage year, which is, we're in a war, right? And this is something that is real. And every day that you walk out of the house, there is some type of system, there is something that is kind of actively working against you. And I think that that is a major challenge for many of us that are out there because we're not thinking that we're in a war. We sometimes get caught up in the media of it all that tries to kind of convince us that we're all equal and that we all have the same opportunities and we all have the same privileges. And after a certain period of time, you start to kind of buy into that narrative because it's just pounded down your throat all the time. And then we fall into these certain traps. And I think something that's interesting is, what is it that we do? The question that you were asking about, not only are Black men becoming an endangered species, which I absolutely agree, just like what Real Tim was talking about, but also, what do we do for these boys, right? Like, what about them? And one of the things that I felt as a repetitive narrative for me within this conversation is something that that Malcolm talked about, right, which was like the house Negro and the field Negro, and
Hmm.
how many of us get so excited to finally be next to the white person, right, that will pay more to be next to him, and then we celebrate when we are the only ones in those rooms. We celebrate the fact that that somehow we feel better even though the rest of our brothers and sisters are not doing that. And one of the things that media does, mainstream media, I'll be specific, what they do is they do elevate certain artists and certain athletes. And because you see them more often, it gives you an illusion that everybody in the Black community is successful. Everybody in the Black community has the same types of opportunities and things of that. And as you know, Train, because you, based off what I was hearing, you know a little bit about the industry, and certain people are elevated to push an agenda and to push a narrative. And the moment that you decide that you stop pushing that agenda and narrative, it's like almost overnight where everything is gone. You're hot and now you're not. Right. And this is just the ways are. And sometimes we don't always want to hear that. We don't want to acknowledge that because this takes us out of the American dream. But the dream only happens when you're asleep. And so one of the things that I also think is for these children, with one of the opportunities is that, yes, I do agree that the social media space is so powerful that we need to begin to reverse engineer this thing and not use it to just allow ourselves to be distracted, to be able to get closer to celebrities. If you're going to be following celebrities, hold these celebrities accountable, hold these athletes accountable instead of running out and being excited because a new jersey dropped or a new shoe dropped, which all the owners in the NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer, you name it, they all profit share. And if people don't know what profit share means, they don't care how many jerseys LeBron James sells. Every one of those owners in the NBA get a profit of that. Right. So again, this becomes a system where it's tribalism, right? So they want you to be tribalistic at every single step, because if we're always against each other in some form or another, you'll never come together. As a form of when it comes to education, the education of it all is one of the, I live, half the time in the US because I work here, but then the other half of the time I live in Africa. And a lot of the same things that are happening in sub-Saharan Africa, and I work in a lot of different countries in Africa. My family is in Africa, everything. One of the things that is, they backdoor did the colonialism the same way that they did to us. And so a lot of the same issues that we go through over there is happening over there on that side as well. And one of the things that we have to understand, especially for us as African Americans, is the history of it all, right? They tell you that you came from slave ships. You don't know anything about the Kingdom of Congo. You don't know anything about the royalty. You don't know anything about the fact of, in the 13th century in Nigeria, we had kingdoms that had 3-story buildings that had indoor plumbing, right? We don't hear about those
Mm-hmm.
things. And so what ends up happening is, as a young child, as all the black men and black women are in here, have all experienced, it's you came here on ships because you were slaves, because in their mind, they deemed you as useless. And then you worked their cotton, you worked their sugar, you did all those other things. Then at a certain point, we allowed you to be freed, which we gave you no education. So now you're an indentured servant. And now if you want to go anywhere, you can't go anywhere because you don't have any education. And now if you fast forward a couple hundred years, if you now want to be somebody that wants to have a voice like a Malcolm or like a Martin Luther King, who in their own times, I have certain things I agree and disagree with them, but the model is we shot them and we killed them. So that sets this table that if you decide that you want to do anything, then be an entertainer, anything, then be an artist, what will you do? It's like you're risking your life, right? And this is something that they did by design. This was an engineering system. So one of the things I do think is going into these schools, I do think that is a mentorship to get into some of these schools. The first time I went into a middle school in South Central, we had maybe 16 to 17 to 25 boys that came in there. And when I first got in there the first couple of weeks, everything that they wanted to do were be athletes. I want to be an actor like you. I want to be this. I want to do that. This is all they want to do. Then you start talking about them. You start telling them about opportunities. Month 2, month 3, now all of a sudden they want to be a scientist. They physicist. They want to go to the moon. They want to do this. Now they ain't really thinking about sports. So it's, again, they need to start seeing us as black men that have different positions in life, expose them to certain things. I didn't know that I could get into the real estate game. I didn't know that I could get into all these different entrepreneurship opportunities. I thought that the only way to be successful was you better be an entertainer. Otherwise, you'll just be hanging on, right? So that would be my last thing. My last point that I wanted to do is also when we're talking about holding these celebrities accountable, because I'm very, very big on this. Everybody that has a platform, this is what I feel that you have to do. When these people are dropping and talking about, look, go support my new music, why they're asking you to go do something, you should be going and asking them, hey, why don't you go drop $500,000 and build a community center? Oh, bet. I'm super glad that you just got a $45 million contract and you make $135 million a year in endorsement deals. Bet. When can we look forward for you to be coming to the community and putting up this bread? Like, let us know. So instead of us going and buying your new jersey, which is the same number, same team year to year to year, that you have no problem going for your colonialist type of masters that are telling you all these things, come back and give us some love. So I would just respectfully suggest to all of our brothers and sisters, we all have people that we like. It's not saying that sports are bad and that, athletes are bad, but it just shows that sometimes, like Real Tim was saying, sometimes some of these people don't know what they don't know. Some of these athletes also were young, 17, 18 years old, and they immediately got scooped up into a situation and they immediately made sure that blinders were on, so they didn't know any better. They made it seem like it was a choice. So I think that we just have to make sure that, yes, we do the boots on the ground, but we also have to learn how to trust each other. Again, one of the biggest things is that crabs in the pot mentality, where I can't support Torraine because maybe I want to do something like that and I want to be the CEO, and now nothing gets done. But he needs your support. We need your support to do things. So I appreciate you. I appreciate this platform. Make sure that we're continuing to pour in. The system was designed for you to get tired, to get you into this mindset of you can't beat them, join them. But you have to just continue to pray to the Most High, or whatever you decide to connect your energy to, that they will give you the strength and endurance to run this race that is set before you. Thank you.
Wow, we got to thank you so much for being candid about your experience, man, and being real about that. It's very rare to hear brothers, from in your space talk about that. So I really appreciate that, man. And I just followed you back. We got to talk some more.
100%, bro.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. All right, I'm gonna start pulling up a couple people that's been waiting.
Sister
Go
Black, you
ahead,
all right?
Chris.
You've been I know
Yeah.
you've been handling
No, no,
them.
no. I'm good. I'm good. I got you. I'm
Just
not
want to be
sick,
sure.
but I'm good.
I just want to be sure. I just want to be sure our sisters have something to say. So all right, all right,
No, I'm good. These people have been waiting a long time.
okay.
Prince, Chris, I want y'all to
Hey,
go
how you
ahead.
doing?
How you doing? And okay, so
I'm doing good.
after Chris, go ahead, Prince. All right, y'all.
I'm doing good. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
You
we
got a
can
little
hear
bit
you.
of feedback in a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay.
It
Yeah, I'm
might
at
be
work.
me. Hold on.
I'm gonna make it a quick 2 minutes. So I agree that black men are, we'll just say we are basically endangered species at this point of our life. Reason being because, as I put in the quote retweet, is we allowed our culture to not only be hijacked, but we're moving at the beat of somebody else's drum. Yes, that can be altered, but we have to take a conscious decision to alter it. Tim said something really profound, and that was that even the parents, the adults, the people that are now adults with children, 1, 2, 5, however many they have, don't have the same knowledge, break that curse. And I think the major way of us as a people breaking that curse is giving ourselves something as far as a message. We don't have a message that we all stand on as black people, that every black child coming out that hospital is going to grow up knowing when they're 5. We don't all have a message that stands for, and I'm speaking about American, African American. We don't have a message that stands and gives us the test of time to strive further and do better. So yeah, when we make things like hip hop, and the hip hop culture is based loosely around the struggles of black. Well, I won't say based loosely, built around the struggles of black people in the time where we had to make something out of nothing. We don't take that message and draw it all the way out, and so eventually it gets hijacked by the money. You're to the money if you don't have a foundation. So as I said, and I'll just read this quick. As I said in the quote retweets, looking back into our roots won't save us. And this was because I believe somebody else said that, and I wasn't trying to discredit his opinion, in my opinion, because it's not going to help us progress forward. We need to build new foundation for future generations. Our past is important, but the road we start building for our future will change our lives. I also said black people need to rebrand our culture. We have been hijacked and force-fed death and chaos in every aspect of our being, from TV to music to cultural beliefs. We need to recreate a strong family-based ideology. Only way to save black men is to change our outlook on life. And that does come from everybody's standpoint. Not only black men, black women have to believe in the message. We have to believe in the message together so we can build up our new generations and force-feed our older generations that have slipped through the cracks due to society allowing them to. Like Tim said, it's not going to be easy because everybody has a different background growing up, but we all have to do our part. And he also said radicalizing the internet in a positive way for our culture. That's literally going to break the curse because you're not going to reach these kids unless you sit with them every day. You're able to deal with their struggles every single day with them. If you can force feed it through the internet, then you'll give them an opportunity to see positivity instead of everything negative. I think that's about it, man. I'm not gonna hold y'all time. I'm at work. Y'all have a great day, and this discussion needs to continue. It can grow forever if we just continue to push it.
No, thank you so much for your insight, brother. That was really powerful. One thing I do want to add to that, and I don't want to put this all on Tim. Did you have something to say? Go ahead. Um, one thing we have to be clear about is that if you look back in the history of our music and in our entertainment, a lot of the stuff that we call black entertainment now, quote unquote, a lot of that was created by people in the communities. If you go all the way back when the first black movies were being made, if you go back to hip hop, the first early hip hop was done by independent black labels, you like on shoestring budgets. They would literally, the cliche is selling records out the trunk of your car. That's how that music got to be move around through mixtapes, through block parties and stuff like that. And there was an authenticity to that music up until the 1994. As I said earlier, when the movies got over commercialized, that's when the lowest common denominator began to be the primary focus of a lot of our entertainment, not just music, but also in TV. We're dealing with two going into three generations of kids who are up seeing these images and not knowing anything else about themselves or black culture. So of course that's going to manifest out in the real world. That's all I wanted to say. Who we got next is?
Let's see. Hold on. We got Prince. You can go ahead, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pull two more people up after you go.
Do we need to drop some folks or do we?
Yeah,
Are we good?
yeah, I got you. I'm gonna drop them as we go.
Okay, cool.
Prince, can you hear us? Okay. Well, I tell you what. Until he comes back, Nokia. I know you had left earlier. You want to go ahead and speak now?
Yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
you
I'm
can go
sorry
ahead.
about that.
Okay, no, it's cool. Go ahead.
um well, I'm kind of be speaking on the standpoint of the youth. I'm like 22 years old. I'm in college. I'm in a PWI in Michigan. I'm really like isolated, and like I'm reading a lot. I'm researching a lot. trying to understand this world that I was born into. And I guess I'm gonna end it with a question, but I mean I'm not ending it right now with a question, but what I'm trying to get at is that from an early standpoint in life, our black kids are introduced to probably a broken family, probably the media normalizing self genocide, probably a narrow view of our culture, probably economic crisis, all these things. How do you convince them to fight? How do you convince them to put on that armor and then get that sword for hundreds of years of of institutionalized racism, where the framework of our society is based off racist white men, and I don't understand how we would do that. But all I can say is that if it's the people in here, we have a strong we have a foundation, and I do appreciate just talking about it because like it's not talked about enough. The media they push a certain narrative all the time, and they won't show this conversation. Um, how do you convince them to fight in the losing battle?
Whew. Um, First of all, before I say anything, I want to say that I don't have all the answers. But I think one thing you have to do, brother, and I can see that you're young and I can see that you might be dealing with some things that are frustrating and it's got you down. You can't really think of it as a losing battle. You have to look at it from a standpoint of you're a young black man. You exist where you are. You're on this planet. And if even if you don't have other people who are in your immediate area that you can physically touch and see, being in this space is showing you that there's a community of people who are concerned about your well-being and concerned about the being of young black boys and young black girls like you. And you just have to start from there, man. Everything starts, like I don't know if you're religious, and I'm not really that religious either, but the Bible says in the beginning was the word. And conversations like this are where things have to start. Maybe from here you might bond with somebody in here that you vibe with, and maybe you can create a conversation where you talk to people on a regular basis. Maybe you find somebody in your school. If you're the only one there, maybe somebody in the town you're in, somebody who feels the same way you do, who is dealing with some of the same things, and you bond that way. But it all comes back to being having that feeling within yourself that you're in a position that something does not feel right, and you want to rectify that wrong. It doesn't have to be next door to you. It can be 1,000 miles away. We have people in this space. We're like 300 deep in here. We got people from sub-Saharan Africa. We got people from England. We got people from the South. We got people from the West Coast of New York. That's power. There's real power here. None of us are in the same room, but we're creating a conversation and we're creating an energy that will hopefully leave this space when it shuts down and goes out into the world. And I would say link up with that, man. Maybe some of us here can get you some materials or get you some reading to help you on your journey. Maybe we can have some conversations. If you want to shoot me a DM, shoot me a DM. I'll be happy to talk to you. Maybe I can guide you to some people and right in your way. But never feel like you're alone, even when you're alone. There's always people out here who are willing to help you along your way. That happens to me every day. And that's all I got. If anybody else has anything to add to that, feel free. The floor is open.
I mean, I would say the same thing. No, kid, you left here 2 hours ago from the first time that you were to speak, and you're back 2 hours later. That says a lot. You know, most of the people that were in this room 2 hours ago, they're still here, and that says a lot. So this is what we organize right here. You know, in spaces like this, this is where we set standards. This is where it happens. So just by you coming back in here again hours later, that tells me that this is not a hopeless battle because there is still some hope there. So right here, this is where it starts. You know, right here.
I don't know if he went away or he might have taken off. But hopefully if he's
No,
still
he
here.
he's there. Yeah, he's there. Young
Yeah.
man got him up late tonight, but he's there.
Okay. So yeah, brother. Like I said, I sent you a message. Just hit me back when you can. We'll talk a little bit further, all right?
And from our old head, we send you a big virtual hug.
Thank
Somebody,
y'all.
no doubt, brother. Much love. Somebody auntie arguing in the background on somebody's phone. You better check your phone.
All right, look,
Over here,
Zad,
somebody say something. The whole world here. Check your phone.
Zad, go ahead. Lead them, get
Hello.
out them people business. Zad, go
I would
ahead.
like to be in the
Be on the
matrix.
party line
Hold
at the
on,
old
hold
folks'
on.
home.
Look,
Ain't
it
nothing
did
wrong with
turn
the
into the
party
party
line.
line. They got about
Ain't
three
nothing
more
wrong with the party
minutes.
line.
Hold
I
on,
would like to make
Prince.
a
Wait,
comment.
wait, wait a second. We
Okay.
can't hear you, love. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Zad, I see your hand. Prince was there first. Can you speak up a little bit for us though? Because we can't hear anything you're saying.
Hold on one second. Let me change my
Okay, okay.
phone to speaker here. Make it much better. Okay. Can you hear me any better now?
Yes, sir.
Kinda.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would like to quickly speak 2 minutes. I ain't gonna hold you on this black man becoming endangered species. Yes, I do believe black men are becoming endangered species. Uh, reason being, it is because we have evolved as a people with knowledge, education, but we have not evolved with power to control our direction and narrative. If you look at the Jews, which quite natural are in the spotlight lately, but those people suffered together Holocaust, and then they reigned together in riches and wealth. And I'm friends with a Jewish guy, and he told me, he said, listen, the reason why we stay wealthy is because we outsource everything we cannot do to other people. We don't come home and try to fix on our car, cut the grass, and do all this. We simply hire and pay other people to do it. So they promote one thing that us as black men, I'm a business owner, and I know there are no mentors. No man is willing to teach anybody if he own. So what we
Hmm.
do is the product of jealousy. We maintain that by being jealous of other people. Even if we got it, we still jealous of them and they don't got it. So we don't teach, reach one and teach one. It sounds good, repeat it, but the action does not speak. This is why, as a people, we don't have no power. We don't have political power. They want our votes when it's time to vote, but we can't get nothing legislated that shows us we are. Um, and I'll hit a little point on music. Black music, great, it's cool, it's fun, it's entertaining. But our people in power speaking to entertainers when it's time to do business as a race. We don't need to be talking to entertainers. We need to be talking to professors or well respected, like Dr. Umar or some other people like that. So our whole, we have no unity as a whole collectively. We have unity on bullshit, but not unity where it matters. That's my opinion.
That's real.
Thank you, Prince. Zad, you can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zaid Merriweather. Um, to answer the question of the space, are black men becoming an endangered species? Absolutely. Especially in New York City, where you hardly see any. And this is something that they've been saying since the 1980s and 90s. So you hardly see original Black Americans in New York, where I'm from. So I'm just going to say that. And before I land my plane, I wanted to just tell you guys that I am an author and I wrote a book on original Black American lineage and comparative religion. If you want, I can put it up in the Jumbotron. I think it's a good book for you guys to check out and read. A lot of good game in there about our ancient lineage and world lineage and world history. So I can put it up in the Jumbotron if you want, but I'm going to land my. Thank you very much for having me on the space. Have a good night.
Thank you, Zaid. I'm sorry about messing your name up. What was that? Oh. Oh, that was some. Go ahead, son.
Shameless plug. That's what it is.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Somebody ran somebody ran up on the stage like they do with the Oscars. They shot up with a shirt on. But it's all good. It's all love. I love our folks. It's all love.
Go ahead, son. Okay.
Son,
Wait till he come back. Let me pull up Samson. We're gonna wait until son comes back.
Samson, you have the mic. Samson with short hair. Let's see. Samson, did you fall back out on us?
All right, that's
Hello.
cool. We'll
Hello?
move on to go ahead, me. Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Who was that, Samson? Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. So I'm a staging location director for the Stacey Abrams campaign. So I'm out helping trying to get people to go vote in this current election in Georgia. So I've been in Atlanta, Augusta, Athens, and I'm actually going back to Atlanta tomorrow. So I've been all over the state, talking to different people, talking to the residents of Georgia. Um, and pretty much like what I'm seeing is, um, even though Georgia is breaking record numbers right now in terms of voting, it's still a lot of people that actually aren't voting, especially the youth. So I'm 23 myself. I just graduated college from Hampton University. Um, and, when I talk to, young people like under 29, 18 to 29, you should say, most of them are aware of, the issues that are going on. Um, like they're fully aware of them. It's just they don't have the drive to actually fight and do something about it. Because when you hear or you read about MLK or you read about Dr. Selby or anybody else of that nature, all these black activists, they pretty much were successful to an extent, but they had to pretty much lose their lives in order to achieve that. And I feel like for people in my age group, it's like we want to fight, we want to do something, but also we see how hard the fight is, and we also see that you got to be willing to almost lose your life for this. Personally, my drive is it just doesn't sit well in my soul. Everything that goes on in this country to our people, and that's what pretty much gets me up in the morning and gives me that drive. But that's just not the case for everybody. So I just feel like, well, I shouldn't say I feel like. So if you look at the election right now, I could give you guys some numbers. So pretty much, even though Georgia's breaking record numbers, um, 58% of those people that are voting right now are 50 years old and older. Um, People that are 18 to 35 only make up 12% of the votes, whereas they're like almost like 40% of the population though, and we only have 12% of the votes from those people. So, and most of those people are registered voters as well. So it's just real crazy to me, seeing how many people are aware of these things, but just don't have the drive and don't have the fight. And I don't really have anything else to say. Wanted to bring that to the light. Um, I'm from New Jersey, so I'm from a blue state. And I came down here to Atlanta, to Georgia to help out. And then the last thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna keep it, is, you know, I'm helping out right now with this election, and if there's anybody here that wants to connect, I want to help and keep doing this. So if there's another fight that needs to be fought, please contact me or DM me, and let's just keep it going.
Hey, brother, don't go anywhere. I'm actually glad you're here.
Okay.
I want to ask you a couple things real quick.
Mhm.
Um, some of the things you just said are some of the same things I've been hearing over the past couple of days. I'm in Atlanta too, by the way,
Oh, okay.
and I've been seeing some of the messaging with the Abrams campaign. Now, I want to tie this in. Now, I want to ask you, and I want you to give me your opinion on this. Why do you think that black voters young black voters are not really energized around electoral politics, at least right now in the election.
So we've had meetings about this with the Abrams campaign. I'm not allowed to give you guys all the details. But
Uh-huh.
what I can say is that when you look at the history of Georgia, and you just see pretty much what's been going on in in this state, it's still pretty relevant right now. Like Georgia is still the number one producer of cotton. It's really just the belief, and like it's just a low amount of hope. You know, people don't believe that even if Stacey is elected, that there will be change. So they just feel like they shouldn't even get involved at all. Like, it's almost like, what's the point?
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm glad you answered that straightforward. Have you been in Georgia? How long have you been in Georgia?
So I came out here in August, and I've been pretty much all around the state, the northern part, you should say.
Okay. All right. Cool. Have you had a chance to to really just kind of like talk to some of the young people and ask them, I know you're trying to get them energized to vote and everything, but have you ever talked to them about what their concerns are and what they're feeling at all? Have you had a chance to do that?
Yeah, so I also help out with the canvassing side of pain as well. Not just
Mm-hmm.
numbers and back end stuff. And pretty much when you look at what the data that the canvassers collect when they go to these people houses,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest problems that people between 18 and 35 have is gun control, police brutality, and pretty much economic what's the name of it?
Economic disenfranchisement.
Yes, that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Um, have you had the opinion or have you had the feeling that a lot of these people who you're trying to outreach, these young people,
Mhm.
feel like those concerns have not been addressed at all?
Yeah, most definitely. So when I got to Georgia, I actually found that the minimum wage here is still $7.
Yep.
So we pay our canvassers $20 an hour. So pretty much like as soon as they hear that, they jump up like, oh, $20 an hour? Like, what do I got to do? And
Mm-hmm.
so we'll tell them it's canvassing, and most of our canvassers are actually older people as well. So like when I go and I recruit and I tell people, it's a job for $20 an hour, most of the young people they turn away as soon as they find out it's about canvassing. They don't want to go knock on people's houses and walk all day. But
Okay.
mm,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, brother. Go
no,
ahead.
it's fine. I was done anyway.
Um, the reason I'm asking you all that is this: is I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in Atlanta for about 20 years,
Mm,
and there's a thing that happens every election cycle, especially in the city of Atlanta.
mm,
Every election cycle, people show up who we don't see any other part of the year for the next 2 or 3 years, and they come out and they want you to vote.
mm,
Now, once you start moving outside of the circles of like Buckhead and Old Fourth Ward and all the areas that are gentrifying, outside of those areas, that's when you start seeing the real Atlanta. I'm talking about the Bluff, English Avenue, the Old West End, and places like that.
mm,
And in those areas, those are where the majority of the sort of men that we're talking about today live, where there's no jobs, there's no economic enfranchisement. The only way you can really make any money is to hustle.
mm,
And a lot of these people, a lot of these young men are seeing their peers go to prison for decades or get killed outright or get
mm,
on dope and everything. People like that really value loyalty and they value people seeing them and really hearing what they have to say. And when people feel like people are only coming around them because they want something, it makes them not, it doesn't really excite, it really doesn't really inspire them to go do anything. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just giving you the background on why that is.
yeah.
And also, if your material condition does not change regardless of who's in office, whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama, whether it's Bush, whether it's Clinton, and you've seen your parents and you've seen your people suffer, no matter what color the candidate is, no matter whether it's a black mayor in Atlanta, whether it's a black governor, whether it's a white man, or whether it's anything. That does people who feel that way and people who have grown up and seen that and have not seen any material change, they're not going to get up and do a damn thing, brother,
Right.
until somebody comes to them with something tangible that says that I hear you, I see you as a human being, I see you as a young man, and I see your concern. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm just saying. I kind of had a feeling you were going to say what you were going to say because I've been hearing some of those same numbers too.
Mm.
But yeah, I know, and I know you can't really say much, but I'm glad you showed up. But when you have your meeting, go back and tell your folks that they better come up with something other than cigar bars, and they're going to have to talk to these young men if they want them to get energized. I'm telling you, because the
Okay.
stuff that worked been because telling them about Martin Luther King and showing them pictures of dogs and water hoses is not gonna fly no more. These people want real stuff,
They want
and
real
it's all
results.
love, brother.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's all I wanted to say. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming in.
No problem. I appreciate you guys as well.
Much love, brother. All
All
love.
right, thank you, me.
All right, who we got
All right,
next?
hold on. Let me see who we got coming up next. Um, no tax. Yeah, no taxation. Go ahead, sis. I see you, Samson. We're gonna get to you right after she speaks. All right.
Hey, Torraine and black mixed with black. I always want to say
Hey.
the whole thing because I just
Hey, sister. How you
don't
doing?
get it twisted, right?
That's right.
I'm just so happy and hello to the room. I'm really happy that you're doing this, Torraine, because we talk about this and it's just so important. I want to read you something. And I sent something to you in your DM, Torraine, because I don't know how to put it on the Jumbotron, but
Hmm.
it's from Brookings, and the woman that wrote it is black, and she's been talking about this for a long time at Brookings, and they looked at 8 areas of life, black male life, and how we're suffering. Let me just read you this so you can get an idea where my head is. So, how many black men are incarcerated? So, in 2021, the report found out that 81 black adults per 100,000 people in the United States are serving time in prison. Well, what does that got to do with black folks? Well, 1 in 3 black men born, if you were born in 2013, 1 out of 3 of you all, black males, are going to be incarcerated. Not just maybe incarcerated, you're going to be incarcerated. That's something that everybody should understand. Mass incarceration and the crack epidemic, it destroyed us, and we're the remnant of that. Um, the other thing that I wanted to read you something, but it's not coming to me right now. When the police handcuff a 5-year-old child because the child doesn't want to go to school, and the police officer gets on their knees with, all their regalia on, their uniform on, that is frightening to a child. So what they're doing now is frightening children and getting them used to talking to the police. And I say that because we have to understand that black men are not becoming an endangered species. They are an endangered species. That's why you don't see a lot of them. The biggest fear in white America, for white America, is the black male youth. By the time you get sort of 60 or 70, I'll say 70, they don't pay too much attention to you anymore. But from the time that you're born and the time that you're viable, they're seeking ways to destroy you. And I mean your life. I don't mean just your economic situation. I don't mean your job situation. I don't mean your education situation or your health situation. I mean, they're trying to take your life. And that's what the system is designed and set up to do. You have to understand, everybody got to understand the fight in this country will always be, and I've said it time and time again on Twitter, the white man versus the black man. If they destroy the black man, they have destroyed black people.
And so we've got to really get there. We're not at war. We're not at war. They're at war. If we were at war, we'd be fighting, and we're not fighting hard enough. If you go into a place, let's say you buy something and you didn't like it and you want to take it back. So you go back to the place and you take it back, and the lady or the man says, I can't take this back. And you say, well, yeah, I just bought it the other day, on the receipt it says whatever. And they say, well, I just can't take it back. And then you get loud on the salesperson. They end up taking it back. We have got to understand that if we don't get loud and if we don't do what we're supposed to do to fight for the black man, which will be the same fight for the black woman and the black children, we just won't be here. And I don't think we really get that. I don't think we're really understanding that on a very base level. They are trying to genocide us off, and the system is designed to do it itself. They don't have to lift a finger. Anytime a police officer puts 6 bullets in a child's head, there's a real problem out here, a very real problem, and it's not being addressed properly. So, how do you address it properly? You get loud. Whenever black folks get loud in this country, stuff gets done. It's time for us to get loud.
For
And I'm
everybody else, we got to start. That's another caveat I got to put in there. Stuff changes for everybody else. We got to make sure things change for us if we're gonna get loud.
exactly. We should only, and if you're not using at this point in your lifetime, and you're on Twitter or any other social media, if you're not using it as a tool, then you have missed the point. Because in a minute, we're not even going to be able to have that. Without Black Twitter, a lot of information that we receive on a daily basis about what's happening in this country, we won't get.
And that's coming.
It's coming.
They just
It's
fired. What's this? Elon just got rid of the whole regulatory council. Basically, he's made himself the dictator of this app.
He did, and he met with civil rights leaders, and I put that in quotes because I think the civil rights leaders are you all, okay? But civil rights leaders met with him on a Zoom. I would suggest everybody go look up and see what he said. He met with them for an hour. An hour. That's all the time that he was going to give to speak to what, 8 entities of civil rights organizations.
No
So
black ones
go,
though.
no black ones, go look and what he said. Without Black Twitter, and Black Twitter moves Twitter. I did the research on it some years ago. If Twitter is not popping off without Black Twitter, I can tell you that right now. And without Black Twitter, this thing for us in this country and what we've built just on social media is going to fold. So if you think that they're not after you because you're living a nice life and nobody has bothered you in the past week, you are highly mistaken. You're in their sights in one way or another. And I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. You always come with the real to give us some pause.
That's right. Thank you so much, sis.
Hey, sister
All
Black.
right.
I know you. I know you. I know you have a time limit. So we going to. How many people we got left?
We just got 2 people left. I don't know if Sun ever came back, but if you are back, let us know you back. But we have the 2 hands that's up, Immortal and Samson. Those will be our final 2.
All right. And just so you know, just for everybody, just to reset the room, it's 12. I'm on the East Coast. It's 12:21. We're gonna try to go till 12:30 and then put a pin in it right there because I know everybody got stuff to do and Sister Black got to get her sleep.
Why you always acting like I'm the one that's tired all the time? You do that
Cause,
every.
Cause
Go
you always
ahead.
got to go.
We ain't about to listen to that. Go ahead, Samson. You have the floor,
Yeah, so
sir.
I figured out what the technical difficulty was. It was my earphones were the speaker that was being used instead of my car for some reason, even though I had it preset. But that's beside the
Okay.
point. I'm gonna just go ahead and say that. So one of the people in the room, I think he may have left, referenced gangster rap as something that should be shunned permanently from the community. And so that was going to be my first point to address was that I agree that it's not the most positive imagery utilized throughout. But I do think it has its place in, a party environment, or in my case, I do love to work out. I'm a pretty fit guy, and I do enjoy it when I'm working out. I don't want to listen to heavy metal rock guys. Not even close to what I'm thinking. So I do think it has its place in society, and um, something that Marcel kind of brushed on, which was that you know it's not going to be the sole cause of, or even necessarily a cause at all of, a lot of the violence in our community, any more than video games or movies or anything else. I do think it can be, if people become obsessed, and obviously youth are impressionable, and some of them probably are obsessed with some rappers and do want to be like them. And in that case, for those individuals, I do think it may affect them. And that's even, temporarily, because I do think a lot of them, when you're like I did, would kind of realize that, hey, these gangster rappers are cool to listen to, but you don't want to, invite gang affiliation and things like that into your lifestyle as a black man and be successful. Now, I will say that everything else that the gentleman said afterwards was on point in my opinion, and so I'm just going to land my plane there. There were other things I wanted to say, but I'll just save that for another time. There's another speaker waiting.
But thank you, brother. I'm glad you could come back. One thing I do want to touch on that you said about gangster rap. If you look at I'm gonna sound like the guy. I'm gonna sound like the uncle sitting on the porch, but it's the truth. If you look at the history of gangster rap, and if you look at the tone of gangster rap from about like 1989, 88 when it was hot, up until about 93, there was gangster rap at that time was very much a lot of cautionary tales. If you listen to stuff from Ice-T, if you listen to the Ghetto Boys, we're gonna take NWA out the equation, but if you listen to a lot of other gangster rappers like Schoolie D and cats like that, they were always tales, especially Scarface was really good at this. There were always tales that said, "Yeah, I'm moving this dope. I'm selling this. I got all this money." I mean, Mind Playing Tricks on Me was the biggest track that came out of that era, and they were saying, "Yeah, we doing all this shit, but here go the consequences of it. I can't sleep at night. I don't know who finna kill me and shit, and then just waiting on me and stuff." They was telling you that. What came out of what we're dealing with now is just all these kids that are flexing and popping off and everything, showing you the consequences of it until they laid out dead. I think that's the other part of it as well. People aren't showing you cautionary tales in the gangster life anymore. And that's all I wanted to
Uh,
say on that.
okay, respond briefly, and I do think you spoke a lot of truth.
Hmm.
I was just going to say that you're definitely right. There's a difference between. I mean, I'm only 28. I think there's a difference between uh, a lot of the new material that's out in the culture, whether it's rap music or anything else, and a lot of the old school. And there's definitely a content quality difference that I don't think any logical person would deny. I do think a lot of the youth would probably deny it, but hopefully they'll realize differently. I do think that a lot of the gangster rappers like Ti and even the Migos have made songs that did speak to some of the systematic racial issues in this country. Takeoff and the Migos had a song called Black Man on one of their
Hmm.
older albums that kind of spoke a bit of the systematic racism in this country. And I think that some of the gangster rappers have had songs, and that's not the image that they represent, sold to the masses on a regular basis for them. But they have had material where they did speak a little bit deeper than just the glorification of the vain aspects of rap culture. And I do, like I said, maybe I'm a fan of some of the gangster rappers on the scene. So maybe my youth and my place in this society currently is showing. I did go to college where a lot of the Migos songs were really popular at the time, as well as featuring some of the other gangster rappers that are hot on the scene. And like I said, I do think. Well, let me just land there. But I just wanted to say that they had some content that might be a little bit different from their image.
No, I got you. You talking about that track that came out with couple years ago. Black Man was Tip and yeah, Quavo and Meek. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. All right. Let's see who we got last but not least. Who's the last person up on the mic tonight, sis?
Immortal was the last one.
All right.
Greetings, to all the family.
Hello,
Really
hello.
appreciate. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, and really appreciate getting a chance to speak. Greetings to Black Mix was Black. I have followed your account for a long time. It's really good to
Yes,
hear your
you
voice.
have. How you doing, brother? Thank you.
Oh, doing great. I guess very quickly, the point I want to make might go contrary to a lot of that has been said tonight, but I think it's worth pointing out that, well, let me speak directly to the title. Are black men becoming an endangered species? And I would say no. I would say emphatically no. Um, our birth rates are presently much better than our white counterparts. And therefore, I think that we should consider that. Also, the CDC, which I don't know of ever having been a friend of black men in particular and black people in general. I've never known them to be a friend to us, but they did put out a study that said that black men uh, were the most involved in their children's lives in the United States, and that's whether
Mm-hmm.
they lived in the household with them or whether we were non-custodial parents or even single parents. No matter how you sliced it up, we were the ones doing the most in that regard as far as parenting for black fathers. And in my mind, the way that works is there is no way that black fathers can be the best fathers in the United States if black mothers were not also the best mothers. So I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of this that we get is information that's put out for us to feel a certain way about ourselves. I don't think that our communities are any more or less violent than anyone else's community. I think it's just whatever goes on in our community is promoted more as far as negative. If it's non-constructive, you're going to hear about it on the news. If it's constructive, you won't hear about it. And I live here in St. Louis metropolitan area. But if you go, to the rural areas, all kinds of stuff is going on out there. Murders, meth labs,
Yep.
everything. But they're not reporting that because they don't want to bring down their property values. The FBI doesn't require every jurisdiction to report all the crimes that go on in their jurisdiction. And white is, even if required to report, always underreport crime. And one of the reasons is to maintain the property values in that area. So I know a lot of the things that have been said tonight are true. And I know we have a lot of work to do and a lot of problems that face our community. But I just don't want us to fall into despair. And I want y'all to know that there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with our emotions. We're not any more or any less violent than any other group uh, in general. And we are the best fathers and mothers. We have some of the best births in these states. So these people who have created a condition for themselves that they cannot, easily bear children, that's a problem for them. Wickedness always has a backlash. And in my mind, that's one of them. So that's all I really wanted to say. I could go on, but hey, family, let's just keep our heads up. I don't think we're an endangered species. I think we're the same species as everybody else. And if they ain't endangered, neither are we. Keep your heads up. We got a lot of going for us. We're still the most prolific in terms of ingenuity. We just get a lot of our ideals stolen from us now, just like it did in the past, but rarely do they come to fruition as an idea of a black person. Usually there's a college or a corporation that black person is working with these days, and they'll take the credit for any inventions. But we're still inventing things. We're still at the cutting edge of the future. And that's what we are. So I just wanted to leave y'all with that. I love you all. Take care.
Thank you, brother. We need to get patent lawyers. Stop getting claiming our stuff, claiming our rights back.
That's it. That's it. Thank you, Immortal. It's been a minute. Thank you. Good to hear from you.
All right. I believe that that is where we're gonna put a pin in it. Um,
Okay.
there is there. How you feeling? You got to run?
No. For another about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, cool. Let's keep it riding. I see a couple people got their hands up at the last minute. You know our folks gotta always late for the bus. But come on in. We gonna we gonna let some people come on and speak.
Let me see. Hold on. Because Chris had his hand up. I think he requested, I don't know if that was by accident or not. Oh, let's
Okay.
see. Who else? I think that was it. If y'all
Oh,
already up there, just come off. Y'all can come off a speaker if y'all have something to say.
okay, cool.
All right.
That's
I
cool.
want to say something.
Oh, go ahead, sis. Go
Black
ahead.
men, black men are the only people in this country, that are being hunted down in the streets and murdered. Only black men. Those are the only men in this country that are being hunted in the streets and murdered. And that's not just by the police. It's by all the white men. I just want to add that.
Well, it is time
Thank
to
you,
hunt.
sis. I think Chris came. No, he dropped back down again. And Prince, I know you're trying to say something, but we can't hear you. Somebody driving.
Yeah, I hear it.
No, I was simply
We may
saying
have to.
that when can the hunted should now become the hunters, hunter gatherers toward our enemies. We have known enemies. We know we cannot get proper justice, stolen land. So it would be better just to force for force against our enemies, which are the CDC, which are in bad health. It's so many things that embody us as a breakdown, and those things should be dealt with on purpose. I just want to say that.
Well, brother, we've had groups that have done that before, and we've had groups that organize self-defense. The most prominent example that everybody knows is the Black Panthers, but you had groups like the Deacons for Defense who were basically deacons that, they were church deacons and church members, churchmen in like South Carolina and
Hmm.
who are war veterans. They kind of alluded to this a little bit on Lovecraft Country in a couple of scenes, but like they were men, this is back in the day when you came home from World War I or the Korean War, from there you could still keep your weapon. And they
Right.
formed self-defense groups in their neighborhoods. And there was a battle that actually happened. Of course, they don't talk about it in the history books, where the Klan tried to move into this black town, and these brothers organized themselves in military formation and shot up the Klan, and they never came back. But you
That's
don't
right.
hear these stories. There's people like Robert Williams who had to actually leave the country because he was talking about arming black people to create self-defense groups and everything. That's always been here, and that's always an option. Every other group in America knows how to arm themselves and knows how to take care of self-defense. It's
Correct.
only taboo when it comes to black people, and I think we have to look at every option to defend ourselves, all of
Correct.
them. Legally, physically, whatever we have to do. But and this is what we've been talking about most of this show, and other people have said over and over, nothing like that is going to work until we realize that we are a community, and we're going to have to start seeing ourselves as a community instead of a group of individuals trying to get over on each other.
Correct.
Until
Correct.
until we come back to that, not a damn thing we think about is going to move.
Correct.
Until we get out of this crab bucket mentality we have, and we stop seeing ourselves as the enemy, no initiative you can think of to try to defend ourselves is going to work. It's just not. So
I
we
agree.
have to start thinking of ourselves again before we can do anything. That has to happen. But I hear you
100%
though.
true. 100%
But
true, my brother.
no doubt. And I think that's what we need to table it. I think everybody's said what they had to say. Sister Black, you see anybody else with anything? Or we gonna start winding it down?
I don't think I see anybody else with anything. If they do, y'all can put your hands up so we can
All right,
catch
well
y'all
then.
before we end the space.
All right. Well, I think that's where we're gonna land our plane tonight.
Okay,
Thanks
that
so
sounds
much to
good.
everybody who came through. We had about 300 people in here at one point. That's an amazing number for Wednesday night when you could be off doing something or watching TV or something. So thank you all. Always a good space when I do this with my sister, Sister Black. She always comes through. We had an amazing stat. We had an amazing group of people in here today.
We
Sister
really
Black, what do you
did.
think?
Look, this was exactly what we needed during a time like this. And I've been kind of MIA a little bit, so kind of pulled me back out of retirement, I guess. But before we end the space, I think that it is one thing that I was meaning to say earlier, but I wanted to let everybody else say what they needed to say. Um, but I know this space was pretty much inspired by black physical death, but I think people forget that our community, we suffering from a few deaths, a few different types of deaths simultaneously. We got the death of autonomy. We got that there. You got the death of self-determination. We got that there. We got the death of independent thought. We got that there. And, right now we're immersed in an environment, that pretty much is birthing easily persuadable minds. And I try to tell people all the time, you die one physical death, but when your mind isn't your own, a piece of you gonna die every single day. And so, I want everybody to remember that and to make sure that you're thinking boldly and you're thinking wildly and you're thinking independently for yourself. Not to allow anybody else to come in and persuade your mind or turn you to thoughts that you know aren't your own. So I just wanted to say that. And of course, I want everybody to take care of themselves first and immediately after each other. So,
All right. Sister Black done gave us the benediction and everybody the love and peace. Um, Thank you again, everybody who came through to listen and speak. Real fire's conversation, a lot of passion, and it was all love. It's all respect. All right, everybody. Thank
all
you
right.
again.
Good
Have a
night,
good night.
y'all.
And this is technically has not been the mix, but this has been
The mix remix.
no doubt.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.